Imagine closing your eyes and drifting into a world that feels entirely separate from your waking life. Yet this world doesn't simply vanish when you awaken. You forget the dream, but the dream doesn't forget you. It lingers silently in the shadows of your mind, shaping your thoughts, emotions, and even decisions as if it continues to live inside your waking consciousness. This phenomenon isn't mere poetic fancy. Science shows us that dreams weave themselves into the fabric of our waking minds through memory and emotion, acting as invisible architects of our inner world. During sleep, your brain cycles through REM stages where dreaming is most vivid. It is here that memories from your day are replayed and reassembled, connecting fragments of experience, emotion, and subconscious desires. The hippocampus, responsible for memory, collaborates with the amygdala, the emotional center, to bind these experiences into long-term memory. But this process isn't perfect. Dreams often manifest as fragmented, surreal narratives that your conscious mind can't always grasp or remember fully. The mind hides its secrets in symbols and echoes. For example, after a stressful day, you might wake feeling anxious without recalling a single nightmare. That's because your dream processed the emotion beneath the surface, sending ripples through your waking state. Or consider how creative insights often emerge after sleep, dreams acting as incubators for problem solving, as in the famous case of the chemist Kekulé, who envisioned the ring structure of benzene in a dream. The dream remembered what your waking self could not see. So, while you may wake with only a faint echo or no memory at all, your dreams continue to influence the architecture of your mind. They color your moods, seed your creativity, and shape your inner narrative, a constant unseen companion that remembers you long after you've forgotten it. Imagine waking up and sensing something just off. Like the world you stepped into today is a slightly faded photocopy of yesterday's reality, where the ink runs thinner, the colors blur, and the paper creases in unexpected ways. This feeling isn't just a trick of your mind, it echoes a profound truth about how reality and your brain process it. Science reveals that our perception of reality is an imperfect reconstruction, a copy built every moment by neurons firing patterns that try to replicate the world outside. But every copy is a new rendition, prone to tiny errors. These errors accumulate like subtle distortions, bending your experience of time, space, and even your sense of self. Quantum physics shows us reality isn't fixed, but probabilistic, a constantly shifting wave of possibilities collapsing into a single experience. Meanwhile, your brain stitches together sensory data with memories and predictions, creating a now that is never perfectly accurate, but always good enough to survive. Consider déjà vu, the eerie glitch when your brain mistakenly overlaps present experience with past memory, a miscopy triggering haunting familiarity. Or how dreams blend fragments into distorted realities, imperfect replays with faded edges. In essence, reality copies itself imperfectly because both the universe and your mind are dynamic, reconstructing rather than replaying. Every day you live is a new photocopy, never quite the same, shaped by tiny mistakes that make existence mysterious, fragile, and profoundly human. Narration script, exactly 1765 characters. Imagine standing in front of a mirror, staring at your reflection, the face that seems so familiar, yet so mysterious. But what if I told you this reflection isn't really you? The mirror doesn't actually see you. It simply bounces back light in a way that creates an image, but the truth of who you are is far more complex. When you look in the mirror, photons hit your face, reflect, and travel back to your eyes. Your brain then pieces together these signals to form the image you recognize. But this is just a projection, a 2D approximation of a 3D reality. The reflection reverses left and right, distorting spatial awareness. It's a guess, a construct made by your mind trying to interpret fragmented visual data. Scientific studies show that what we perceive isn't a perfect replica of reality. Optical illusions reveal how easily our brains can be tricked. The mirror's image is no different, a flat representation that can't capture the fullness of your being. Your true self exists in your mind, your consciousness, your memories, not in this reversed image. Even more, mirrors have fascinated philosophers and neuroscientists because they challenge the notion of self. If the reflection is just light and interpretation, then what is identity? The mirror forces us to confront the gap between appearance and essence. So next time you gaze into a mirror, remember, it's not an all-knowing eye, but a simple tool reflecting nothing more than light and your brain's interpretation. Your true reflection is inside, unseen, unfathomable, and infinitely more real than any glass surface can show. Imagine you're flipping a coin, heads or tails. You watch it spin through the air, heart pounding, waiting for fate to reveal itself. But what if I told you both outcomes have already happened? The flip itself isn't random. It's predetermined by the laws of physics, and your experience is just the version you're allowed to see. This is not just philosophical speculation. Quantum mechanics, especially the many worlds interpretation, suggests every possible outcome of a quantum event actually occurs, but in separate branching realities. When you flip that coin, the universe splits, one where it lands heads, another where it lands tails. Your consciousness, however, perceives only one outcome, the one you remember. It's like a story already written, with your mind flipping between chapters without seeing the others. Neuroscience also hints your brain constructs reality, filtering and editing information to create a seamless narrative. So the coin flip becomes a metaphor. The choice appears free, but the result has already been inscribed across infinite possibilities. This challenges our deepest notions of free will and randomness. Are we truly making decisions, or simply observing a pre-chosen path? The coin's spin is a dance of certainty disguised as chance, reminding us that reality's layers are far more complex than our everyday senses reveal. What if every decision you think you make is already carved into the fabric of the multiverse, and you're just reading your page? Imagine standing in a place you've never visited before, yet every detail feels hauntingly familiar, as if your soul recalls what your brain refuses to acknowledge. This eerie sensation is known as déjà vu. But beneath that simple label lies a profound paradox. How can you live a moment again without any memory or cause? Science offers intriguing clues. Our brains are prediction machines, constantly weaving past experiences into expectations about the present. Sometimes, a brief neurological glitch causes overlapping neural signals, making your mind confuse the now with a faint echo of something once experienced. This creates a false sense of familiarity without concrete memory. But what if there's more? Some researchers suggest that this feeling arises from deeper layers of consciousness or even a form of implicit memory, hidden recordings etched into your brain beyond awareness. Others theorize about quantum aspects of consciousness or the mind accessing parallel realities where that moment truly unfolded. Consider how a song might suddenly feel familiar, even if you've never heard it, or how a stranger's face triggers an inexplicable recognition. These instances hint that memory isn't always linear or confined to our waking understanding. The lived-it-before paradox challenges our sense of time, identity, and reality itself. It forces us to question whether memory is solely stored in the brain or if fragments of our existence persist beyond logic, residing in the soul or in dimensions science is only beginning to explore. In those fleeting moments when familiarity washes over without cause, your consciousness is whispering secrets, reminding you that experience may be layered, non-linear, and far richer than what our brains can currently explain. So next time you live, a moment before it happens, listen closely. It might be your soul recalling a truth science has yet to uncover. Imagine standing at a crossroads with infinite paths stretching endlessly in every direction. You can go anywhere, do anything, yet somehow you remain trapped. This is the paradox of modern freedom. The more choices we have, the tighter our invisible cage becomes. Our routines, habits, and unconscious behaviors form chains stronger than iron bars. Science calls it the freedom paradox, where unlimited options overwhelm the brain, leading to decision fatigue, anxiety, and a retreat into familiar patterns. Every day, your mind craves certainty amidst chaos. So despite the countless possibilities, you gravitate toward routines that feel safe, predictable, and comfortable. This repetition builds invisible walls, routines that limit your actions and shape your thoughts, effectively trapping you within yourself. Neuroscience shows that habits form deep neurological loops in the brain's basal ganglia, making behavior automatic and resistant to change. The harder you try to break free, the more these loops tighten. Take the example of waking up at the same time, following the same route to work, scrolling the same social feeds for hours. These aren't just choices, they're a prison disguised as freedom. Your brain conserves energy by automating these decisions, but in doing so, it sacrifices novelty, growth, and true autonomy. The endless comfort of routine dulls the mind's hunger for exploration. So, freedom isn't just the absence of external barriers, it's the courage to break invisible chains forged by our own minds. The most confining prisons are the routines we never question, the choices we never reconsider. To escape, you must first see the cage, then dare to unlock it from within. True freedom lies not in wandering aimlessly, but in consciously choosing which chains to break. Imagine staring at a clock that refuses to move when you need it to. Seconds stretch like molasses, dragging your moments into endless waiting. But the instant you plead for time to slow down, perhaps during your happiest hour, it races away like a bullet, leaving you breathless and grasping at the past. This isn't just poetic frustration. It's how your brain experiences time. Science reveals that time itself flows steadily, unaffected by wishes or fears. But your perception of time is fluid, shaped by your attention, emotions, and neurological wiring. When focused intently, like during boredom or anxiety, your brain's internal clock slows, making seconds feel longer. Conversely, joy and flow states speed up your sense of time, compressing hours into minutes. Neurologists explain this through the interplay of neural circuits and dopamine levels, chemicals that modulate how time is encoded. Your brain samples the world in snapshots, stitching moments together. But these snapshots can dilate or contract based on how alert or engaged you are. Even physicists remind us that time is relative. Einstein showed that it bends and warps depending on speed and gravity. Yet, on the human scale, it's perception that warps most wildly, the true trickster. Time waits when you want it to run, and it runs when you beg it to stay. This paradox makes time both your cruelest enemy and most elusive friend, forever slipping through your fingers, always just out of reach, never quite what it seems. Imagine for a moment that your existence isn't just the sum of your past choices, but a puzzle where the future reaches backward, reshaping what already happened. This idea may sound like science fiction, but in physics, especially quantum mechanics, the boundaries of time aren't as fixed as we imagine. Experiments like the delayed choice quantum eraser reveal something astonishing. Actions taken now can influence the state of particles measured in the past. This challenges our common sense of cause and effect, suggesting the future can, in a way, rewrite history. What does that mean for you? It means the story of your life may not be written only by what's behind you, but also by what lies ahead, your future self sending ripples backward through time, altering events you thought were set in stone. Philosophers and physicists alike wrestle with this paradox, exploring how time might be less a one-way street and more a tangled web, where past, present, and future intertwine. So, when you wonder why you are here now, consider this. Maybe it's not just your past shaping your present, but your future reaching back, subtly rewriting the chapters you thought were already closed. Time is not a straight line. It is a fluid dance, and your future self may already be guiding the steps you take today. Imagine wearing a mask, not a physical one, but a role, a persona you put on every day. At first, it's an act, a performance crafted to fit expectations or protect your true self. But over time, the lines begin to blur. Neuroscience reveals that the brain is incredibly plastic. It reshapes itself based on repeated behaviors and thoughts. When you keep pretending, your neural pathways adapt, reinforcing that identity until the act becomes indistinguishable from reality. Psychologists call this the self-perception theory. We infer who we are from our actions, not just the other way around. If you keep behaving a certain way, your brain convinces you that's who you truly are. This is why actors sometimes lose themselves in roles, or why social masks can feel permanent. The mask fits so well because your mind rewires itself to match it, blurring the boundary between facade and essence. Identity becomes a living script, written by repetition and belief, not fixed traits. The danger: losing sight of where the mask ends and the real you begins. The act isn't just a performance anymore, it's your new truth. This shows us that identity is fluid, shaped by what we do, say, and embody. So ask yourself, is your mask protecting you or defining you? Imagine watching a scene unfold, yet somehow you know every detail before it actually happens. It's as if memory is leaking backward from a future you haven't lived yet. This phenomenon blurs the line between past, present, and future, challenging everything we think about time and consciousness. Scientists are beginning to explore time not as a strict line, but as a fluid dimension, where cause and effect might bend and overlap. Quantum physics introduces the idea of retrocausality, where future events influence the past. Could your brain be tapping into that mysterious flow, replaying moments before they truly arrive? This sensation is more than mere anticipation. Unlike prediction, which uses logic and clues, rewatching before it happens feels involuntary, uncanny, and vivid. It's like your mind is briefly synchronized with a timeline ahead, glimpsing events before they manifest in your reality. Psychology suggests memory isn't a perfect recorder, but a dynamic process. What if some memories aren't just stored from the past, but also borrowed from potential futures? This would explain déjà vu's cousin, the eerie familiarity of scenes you've never lived but somehow remember. Even anecdotal evidence abounds, people describing events before they occur, sensing conversations, or feeling déjà vu that aligns with future outcomes. These moments hint at a deeper connection between time and consciousness than science currently admits. The idea that memory can leak backward invites us to rethink fate, free will, and the nature of experience itself. Perhaps your mind isn't just trapped in the now, but floats fluidly across moments, rewatching what's yet to come. So next time you feel caught in a moment that hasn't happened, remember, it might be your consciousness reaching forward, touching the future before it unfolds. Imagine waking up and suddenly feeling like a stranger to yourself. The person you knew just moments ago seems distant, almost unreal. You don't feel like you. But if you are not the dreamer, nor the dream, then what exactly are you? Could it be that your true self is not a solid entity, but the empty space between thoughts, feelings, and perceptions? Modern neuroscience and philosophy have wrestled with this question for centuries. Our sense of self is actually a complex, dynamic process rather than a fixed thing. Brain imaging shows that multiple regions work in concert to create the illusion of a unified identity. The default mode network, for example, stitches together memories, plans, and sensations to build a continuous narrative of I. But when you wake from a dream, this narrative can momentarily dissolve, revealing the fragile, transient nature of self. Consider lucid dreaming, where you realize you are dreaming while inside the dream. Suddenly, the boundary between dreamer and dream blurs, and with it, your identity feels fluid, elusive, like a shifting mist. Similarly, meditative states strip away layers of mental chatter, exposing the silent void beneath, the vast empty space where thoughts arise and vanish without a trace. Philosophers call this the no-self, or anatta, concept, suggesting that what we call self is a constantly changing flow, not a permanent being. In this view, you are less the dream or the dreamer, and more the empty space where dreams appear and disappear. So next time you wake feeling lost, remember, the self that vanishes is not truly gone. It is the spacious silence in which your life unfolds, the quiet presence between all things, ever changing, yet eternally there, holding everything together without form or boundary. Imagine running full speed ahead while your mind stays frozen, trapped inside a glass box. Your body moves, walking, talking, reacting, but inside, time slows to a crawl. Thoughts falter, emotions stall, and the world feels distant, like watching life through a cracked window. This paradox of outward motion with internal stillness is a silent struggle millions face. Neuroscience shows that during stress, trauma, or dissociation, the brain's processing can fragment. The limbic system, the seat of emotions, may freeze, while motor functions carry on. This disconnect creates a gap between what you do and what you feel. Cognitive functions lag, leaving awareness stuck in a paused frame, even as your body pushes forward. Psychologists call this dissociative freezing, a survival mechanism where the mind detaches to protect itself from overwhelming stimuli. The result is a still mind inside a rushing body, a silent scream muffled beneath movement. This experience challenges the illusion that mind and body always act as one. Instead, it reveals how deeply perception shapes reality. You appear to move through space, but internally you are suspended, caught in a timeless limbo where thought and feeling hesitate to follow. In that frozen moment, existence fractures, bending the fragile line between motion and stillness, reminding us how complex, fragile, and mysterious the human mind truly is. Imagine discovering a message, a note, a text, or an email you don't remember writing. It's in your voice, your style, but it feels strangely alien, like a shadow of yourself speaking from somewhere unknown. What if this isn't just forgetfulness, but something deeper, an echo of your mind playing tricks on memory? Neuroscience reveals that memory isn't a perfect recording. It's a reconstructive process, constantly rewritten each time you recall an event. Sometimes, fragments of thoughts, dreams, or emotions surface unexpectedly, blending with reality until you mistake them for conscious acts. These messages you never sent may be glimpses of your subconscious mind, leaking through the cracks. They could be drafts of your inner dialogue, raw and unfiltered, captured accidentally and saved. Or they might be artifacts of brain errors, false memories, confabulations that blur the line between what you did and what your mind imagined. Psychologists call this phenomenon source monitoring error, where the brain misattributes the origin of a memory or action. It's why sometimes you feel like a stranger in your own story. So next time you find a message you don't recall sending, remember, it might not be lost or forgotten, but a reflection of your mind's hidden layers. Your echo, resonating beyond conscious awareness, reminding you that who you are is more complex than you think. Imagine a room where the light is switched on, yet nothing truly feels visible. The brightness fills the space, but the clarity you expect remains elusive. This paradox touches on how perception works, not just through physical light, but through attention and meaning. Neuroscience shows that our brain doesn't passively receive light. It actively interprets signals, filtering and prioritizing information. Sometimes, an excess of stimuli creates noise, overwhelming our senses and blurring details. Brightness, in this sense, can mask subtle contrasts, washing out the very edges that define objects and meaning. Psychologically, this mirrors moments when outward appearances seem clear, but internally, confusion or emptiness persists. The light may be present, but insight and understanding remain in shadows. Philosophers call this the illusion of clarity, a state where illumination blinds rather than reveals. So sometimes, darkness can feel more honest than a glare that hides the nuances beneath its shine. This tension between light and dark reminds us that visibility is not just about illumination, but about how deeply we see beyond the surface. What if the brightest moments are the ones that obscure the most? Imagine waking up and sensing that everything around you, the bed you sleep in, the job you do, even the world itself, was designed for someone else, like you stumbled into the wrong version of your own life, a reality that doesn't quite align with who you truly are. This unsettling feeling is more common than you think and ties into complex psychological and quantum theories about identity and reality. Psychologically, this sensation is connected to a phenomenon called existential displacement. Your mind, finely tuned to patterns and belonging, detects subtle mismatches between your inner self and external surroundings. When these clashes pile up, you feel like an outlier in a world that was never meant for you. But science also explores this through the lens of multiverse theory, the idea that countless parallel realities exist simultaneously, each with a different version of you living a slightly altered life. What if somehow your consciousness has slipped into a timeline that isn't your true one? This would explain the profound sense of alienation, like being a traveler lost between worlds. Neurologically, the brain's constant effort to reconcile memory, perception, and identity can create fragments of dissociation, tiny glitches that make the familiar seem foreign. These cognitive dissonances amplify the sensation of not belonging, fueling that silent inner scream, "I don't fit here." This feeling also taps into the human search for meaning. When your environment contradicts your essence, it triggers a deep craving for alignment, for a place or path where your soul feels home. In moments when life feels off-kilter, remember, you might be experiencing the ripple effects of vast cosmic patterns, inner psychological struggles, or even a fleeting glimpse into parallel existences. The sense of not fitting could be a message, urging you to seek the world where your true self finally belongs. Imagine living your life inside a delicate soap bubble, transparent, fragile, and beautiful, yet impossibly confining. No matter how much you push, the walls hold firm, separating you from the vastness beyond. This is bubble reality syndrome, the feeling that your existence is trapped within invisible boundaries, a cage of perception that keeps you confined inside a limited, repeating loop. Science reveals this sensation is more common than you think, rooted deeply in how your brain constructs your reality. Your brain doesn't record the world like a camera. Instead, it builds a predictive model, filtering incoming information through expectations and past experiences to create a bubble of perceived reality. This bubble smooths over chaos and uncertainty, offering a stable, manageable world, but it also confines you, trapping you inside a mental construct that can feel like an unbreakable prison. People stuck in this syndrome describe days blending into one another, emotions dulled, and a persistent sense of disconnection from themselves and others. Neuroscience links these feelings to reduced activity in the brain's default mode network and an increased reliance on rigid, habitual thought patterns. The bubble thickens, making it harder to break free or even glimpse the vastness beyond familiar confines. Yet, the bubble isn't unbreakable. Moments of awe, creativity, or deep connection puncture it, revealing the boundless reality outside. Practices like mindfulness, seeking novel experiences, and intentionally challenging your comfort zones can deflate the bubble, expanding your sense of self and the world. So when life feels confined and repetitive, remember, your bubble can burst. The walls are thinner than they seem, and beyond them lies a freedom waiting patiently to be discovered, felt, and lived. Imagine feeling trapped inside a single moment, like a broken record playing the same note over and over. It's not just repeating actions, waking, breathing, moving, but the entire tone, emotion, and thought attached to that instant. Every feeling is rewound and replayed, draining life of surprise and change. This sensation, often described as jamais vu or time loop experiences, reveals how our mind can get stuck in a recursive cycle. Neuroscience explains that memory and perception are deeply intertwined. When neural circuits responsible for processing time and emotion glitch or get overloaded, the brain can latch onto a single fragment of experience, endlessly recycling it. This loop distorts the flow of time, making minutes feel like hours and hours like repetition. Psychologists note this in trauma and anxiety, where the brain tries to process intense moments by rewinding them, hoping for a different outcome. Yet, this rewinding traps consciousness in a limbo where change feels impossible. Even outside trauma, the brain's predictive nature means it constantly forecasts what's next. When expectations align too perfectly with reality, the mind experiences a repetitive rhythm, like déjà vu on repeat, pulling us into a psychological loop. Living in this loop challenges our sense of progression, identity, and freedom. It's a haunting reminder that time and consciousness are not always linear, but sometimes tangled in endless circles where moments refuse to move on. Imagine standing before a mirror and your reflection smiles before you do. It blinks slower, breathes differently, almost as if it has a life of its own. You freeze, questioning reality. Are you watching it, or is it watching you? This unsettling feeling taps into how our brains process sensory information. Visual perception isn't instantaneous. There's a tiny delay as signals travel from your eyes to your brain, get interpreted, and then trigger your responses. Sometimes, this lag creates strange moments where your mind can't perfectly sync action and reflection. Neurological studies reveal that motor actions and sensory feedback operate on different timelines. Your brain predicts movements before they happen, creating expectations. When the reflection doesn't match, it feels uncanny, like a separate entity, a ghost in the mirror. Psychologists call this the mirror neuron phenomenon. Neurons that fire when you perform an action or see someone else do it, blurring the line between self and other. Your brain may momentarily confuse your reflection for another presence. This backward reflection reaction challenges what we trust about self and perception. It forces us to confront the fragile boundary between observer and observed. So next time your reflection seems off, remember, it's a trick of time, mind, and neurons. The mirror doesn't just show you, it reveals the strange dance between your reality and perception. Imagine standing before a table filled with choices. You pick one, feeling the power of freedom in your hands. But pause. Why do these options feel so perfect, so carefully crafted? What if the very system offering you choice is guiding you toward outcomes it wants, masking control as freedom? Cognitive science reveals that our brains love patterns and predictability, so algorithms and social systems tailor options to what feels logical and comfortable. This phenomenon is called choice architecture, designing the environment to influence decisions subtly. From online shopping to news feeds, algorithms filter what you see, narrowing your options while giving the illusion of endless freedom. Your mind believes it's choosing freely, but the menu is pre-selected, shaped by unseen hands. Philosophers warn this is a false choice, a scripted dance disguised as spontaneity. The sensation of agency becomes a carefully curated experience, not true independence. So every free decision might be part of a design, a pathway laid out to make you feel in control while steering you unseen. Freedom, then, could be control wearing a mask, inviting you to choose while choosing for you. Imagine walking into a moment and realizing you didn't choose it, the moment chose you, like a scene written long before you arrived, waiting for the perfect actor to play their part. This flips our understanding of free will on its head and invites us to question who's really in control, us or the unfolding story. Neuroscience reveals our brains make decisions milliseconds before we become consciously aware of them. Studies using brain scans show activity patterns predicting choices before we feel we've made them. This suggests that what feels like choice might actually be a post hoc narrative, a story the brain tells after the decision has been set in motion. Philosophers call this the illusion of free will. Our sense of agency is powerful, but may be a carefully constructed experience rather than a true cause. The choice is a result of countless unseen variables, genetics, environment, past experiences that shape which path is available. Quantum physics adds another layer, with concepts like entanglement and superposition implying that outcomes might be predetermined within probabilities, collapsing into reality only when observed. The moment you walk into may have been waiting in the fabric of reality, calling you forward like an inevitable role. This idea can feel disempowering or freeing. If moments choose us, then perhaps surrendering to the flow rather than resisting is where true power lies. The illusion of choice becomes a dance between destiny and agency, where you're both actor and audience. So next time you feel a choice unfold, ask yourself, who is really pulling the strings? The one who appears to choose, or the moment that's already been waiting for you? Imagine reality not as a smooth river flowing endlessly, but as a fragile quilt, stitched moment by moment. Each patch is a carefully sewn fragment of experience, memory, and perception, woven together to create the seamless story you call life. Yet beneath this illusion of continuity lies a complex process of constant repair and reconstruction, your brain stitching together fragments to keep reality intact. Our perception is not continuous. Neuroscience reveals that consciousness operates in discrete moments, like frames in a film or stitches in fabric. Between these frames, the brain fills gaps with predictions, memories, and sensory inputs to create the sensation of a flowing present. This stitching is essential because raw sensory data is incomplete, noisy, and often conflicting, requiring active interpretation and synthesis. Consider how, when you blink, or when your attention shifts abruptly, your conscious experience briefly fractures. Yet, you never perceive reality as broken or fragmented. That's the brain's masterful patchwork at work, repairing and blending pieces seamlessly to maintain your sense of continuity and coherence, a narrative that comforts and guides you. Even memory itself is a stitched-together tapestry. Every recall rewrites and reshapes the story, sometimes filling gaps or smoothing inconsistencies with imagination and emotion. Your identity, then, is a dynamic quilt, constantly patched by the interplay of experience, interpretation, and forgetting. So, life doesn't flow like a river. It stitches itself into being, moment by moment, a fragile but astonishing tapestry held together by the hands of your own mind, weaving meaning from the fragments of chaos and change, creating order from seeming randomness. Imagine wandering through cities that blur into one another, where streets echo the same patterns and faces feel just familiar enough to unsettle you. You travel far, but arrival never comes. Every place seems reskinned, like a simulation copying one city and pasting it over and over with tiny glitches and faded colors. This eerie sameness is more than travel fatigue. It reveals how your brain maps and processes space and memory. Neuroscience shows that our sense of place, called spatial memory, relies on the hippocampus to build detailed maps from experience. But when environments lack distinctive cues or feel repetitive, your mind struggles to anchor itself. The result? A disorienting loop where all places feel like a variant of the same scene and nowhere truly feels local. Psychologists link this sensation to liminal spaces, those eerie, in-between places that feel unsettlingly empty or unreal. They trigger a feeling of displacement, as if reality itself is a looping copy-paste without origin. Even on a larger scale, some theorists propose our universe might be a simulation with repeated patterns, causing subtle déjà vu in places we visit. The brain's craving for novelty clashes with the world's repetitive design, leaving you stranded in endless sameness. This strange stasis makes every journey feel futile and every destination a pale reflection, as if you're forever traveling through echoes of the same forgotten place. Imagine looking back at your day and realizing some hours are missing, not lost or forgotten, but erased, like cutscenes from a movie you didn't know you were in. These gaps aren't fantasy. They reflect how your brain processes and sometimes hides time. Scientists call this phenomenon dissociation, a mental state where parts of experience become disconnected from awareness. It can happen during trauma, stress, or even moments of intense focus. Your brain edits out those hours to protect you, or because it simply cannot integrate the memories. Neurologically, memory formation isn't continuous or flawless. The hippocampus stitches together experiences, but sometimes it fails, leaving holes. These missing hours feel like lost time, a void in your personal history. Even more, altered states, whether caused by sleep deprivation, substances, or psychological conditions, can distort your perception of time passing. Hours may feel compressed or expanded, then vanish from recall altogether. These holes in the day challenge how we understand reality and self. They remind us that our experience of time is fragile, malleable, and sometimes edited by forces within our own minds. So next time you find hours missing, remember, it's not just forgetfulness. It's your brain's way of shaping your story, cutting scenes that don't fit, even while you weren't watching. Imagine finding an old photograph of yourself, frozen in time, smiling back at you. Yet you don't recognize that person. That smile feels unfamiliar, like a stranger wore your face. Neuroscience tells us that our sense of self isn't fixed. It's a constantly evolving story the brain rewrites every day. Memory isn't a perfect recording, but a fragile reconstruction, shaped by emotions, time, and new experiences. The version of you in that photo lived in a different moment, different feelings, thoughts, and dreams. Psychologists call this the self-continuity paradox. We believe we are the same person through time, but our brain updates the narrative constantly, creating gaps between past and present selves. That smile captures a version of you you've outgrown or forgotten, highlighting how identity is fluid, a mosaic of shifting pieces. This stranger wearing your face reminds us that memory is as much about what we forget as what we keep. It challenges the idea of a permanent self, showing instead that who you are is a moving target, forever rewritten by time. So when you look at that smile, ask yourself, how many versions of you exist beyond the mirror? Imagine reacting to a word before it's even spoken, your mind forming the thought not as a prediction, but as a memory borrowed from the future. It feels impossible, yet science hints that sometimes our consciousness reaches forward in time, blurring the lines between cause and effect. Neuroscience has shown that brain activity can precede conscious decisions by milliseconds or even seconds. Experiments reveal that the brain initiates responses before we're aware of external stimuli, suggesting that what we perceive as reaction is often a reconstruction of neural events already underway. But what if this isn't just a trick of timing? Some theories propose that memory and consciousness are not confined to linear time. Quantum physics, with its entanglement and non-locality, offers a framework where information could flow backward as well as forward, allowing the brain to remember future events. This concept challenges the very nature of free will and time, suggesting our minds might tap into a reservoir of temporal possibilities. When a thought forms before the stimulus, it's as if the mind is accessing a future script, recalling events yet to unfold. Everyday experiences, like knowing who's calling before answering or sensing a question before it's asked, may be subtle clues of this phenomenon. Rather than guessing, your brain might be quietly remembering from ahead, operating in a dimension beyond ordinary perception. In those fleeting moments when thought precedes event, you glimpse the profound mystery of consciousness and time, where past, present, and future fold into one continuous flow, and your mind dances along its edges. Imagine a moment when time seems to hiccup, a sudden jump, a second repeating itself, or a breath that hits wrong. It's fleeting, too brief to capture on any clock, yet long enough to make you pause and question reality. These brief stutters in time are more than tricks of the mind. They reveal the delicate mechanics of how we perceive the flow of existence. Neuroscience shows that our experience of time is not continuous, but constructed by the brain in discrete chunks. Our sensory system samples the world in tiny frames, like a film reel, which the brain stitches into a seamless flow. But sometimes glitches occur, moments when processing delays or neural loops cause brief repetitions or skips, felt as stutters in the fabric of now. For example, have you noticed how time seems to slow during sudden shocks or accidents? That's your brain intensifying frame processing to capture every detail. In rare moments, this can overshoot, creating a micro-repeat or jump sensation. Psychologists call this phenomenon chronostasis, like when your watch's second hand seems frozen for a heartbeat after you glance at it. Even more mysterious are déjà vu moments, when your brain's timing circuits misalign, producing an eerie sense that the present moment is repeating itself. These glitches suggest that our perception of time is an active, fragile construction, easily disrupted by neural quirks and shifting attention. So, when time stutters briefly, it's not just a glitch or illusion. It's a window into the fragile, beautiful machinery of consciousness, revealing that the flow of time is less a smooth river and more a series of intricate stitches, jumps, and pauses, each one a small miracle of perception. Imagine counting your steps, tracking the hours, measuring miles traveled, yet none of it feels truly real. The numbers stack up, neat and precise, but beneath them lies a fragile illusion. Metrics exist not to capture solid truth, but to give a story, a fiction, the convincing form it needs to feel real. Science shows us that time, distance, and even motion are abstractions constructed by the brain to make sense of the chaotic world. Clocks and rulers are human inventions, tools designed to impose order on experience. But these measurements don't exist independently. They're frameworks layered on perception, not the essence beneath it. Quantum physics reveals that at its core, reality resists precise definition. Particles exist in clouds of possibility, collapsing into measurable states only when observed. Space and time themselves warp and bend, defying classical metrics. Psychologically, our sense of time and space is malleable. Seconds can stretch or shrink depending on emotion, and distances can feel long or short based on context. The metrics you trust are filters, not foundations. In counting steps or hours, you are holding onto a scaffold of meaning, numbers that anchor fleeting moments to a semblance of permanence. But that permanence is a carefully woven fiction, a structure designed to help navigate a world that is, at its essence, fluid, uncertain, and never quite as real as it seems. Imagine waking up, and then waking up again, and again. You've opened your eyes 3 times today, but each awakening feels different, like peeling back layers of reality. Which one was the true exit from the dream? Science shows that sleep is not a single moment, but a series of cycles, each with its own depth and consciousness. Dreams can occur not only during REM sleep, but also in lighter stages, blurring lines between sleep and wakefulness. Sometimes, the brain experiences false awakenings, a phenomenon where you dream of waking up, only to realize later you are still dreaming. This creates confusion, a recursive loop where you question what is real. Neurologically, this happens because different parts of the brain activate at different times. Your sensory cortex may signal wakefulness, while your prefrontal cortex, the seat of reasoning, remains subdued, trapping you in a semi-lucid state. Philosophers and neuroscientists alike ponder these layers, asking if waking is ever truly absolute, or if consciousness is a fluid spectrum. Your mind navigates a labyrinth where each awakening may be just another door within the dream. So next time you wake, ask yourself, did I really leave the dream behind, or am I still wandering inside it, searching for the real exit? The answer might be as elusive as sleep itself. Imagine living by rules you never learned explicitly, feeling certain actions are right or wrong without ever being told why. This strange instinct is rooted deep within human cognition and culture. Neuroscience reveals that much of our behavior is guided by implicit learning, where the brain absorbs patterns and social norms without conscious awareness. From infancy, we internalize subtle cues, body language, and social reactions, creating a hidden framework that directs our choices. Psychologists call this tacit knowledge, a powerful set of unspoken instructions shaping morality, etiquette, and decision-making. Evolution also plays a role. Survival depended on quickly knowing what felt safe or dangerous, right or taboo, even without clear rules. This unconscious guidance creates a sense of intuition, a compass built from experience and inherited wisdom. Yet, without context, These instructions can feel mysterious, leaving us puzzled by why something feels inherently off or just. This invisible rulebook is a reminder that much of what drives us operates beneath awareness, blending biology and culture. So next time you act on a gut feeling, ask yourself, where did these silent instructions come from, and what story are they telling? Imagine looking back at your life and noticing patterns so precise they feel scripted, foreshadowing moments, ironic twists, connections that seem too perfect to be random. It's as if you're not living freely, but performing a story written long before you arrived, a narrative unfolding without your hand. Psychology calls this the narrative bias, the mind's tendency to impose order on chaos, weaving random events into coherent stories. This makes life feel meaningful, but can also trap us in a script we didn't write, where every choice and outcome seems preordained. Yet, beyond psychology, philosophers and scientists ponder if life might truly follow a hidden storyline. The concept of determinism suggests all events are consequences of prior causes, like dominoes falling in a precise sequence. Your life's story may be the inevitable result of countless factors, from genetics to environment, arranged in a cosmic script. Quantum mechanics shakes this certainty, hinting at randomness and probability. But even then, some interpretations propose that the universe's unfolding is like a novel being read forward, each chapter set by an unseen author. This tension between fate and free will fuels the sensation that life is written. You recognize the irony, the foreshadowing, the strange coincidences, and wonder if you are the author or merely the actor. Perhaps the truth lies somewhere in between, a dance between your choices and the larger narrative the cosmos weaves. And in recognizing this, you find freedom to shape your role, even if the script feels already penned. Imagine sudden waves of emotion crashing over you without warning, without origin. They don't seem tied to any memory, any event, or any person. Yet they feel intensely personal, like they came from somewhere deep within you, or perhaps from a version of you long forgotten. These are the mysterious echoes of forgotten file memories, hidden fragments of your psyche that influence your feelings without conscious recognition or understanding. Psychology tells us that not all memories live in clear, accessible files. Some remain unconscious, buried deep in the mind's shadows, waiting to be triggered by subtle cues. These hidden memories evoke emotions without clear context, as if your brain is playing back old files you no longer remember, but that still quietly shape your present state and responses. Trauma research reveals how forgotten memories, especially those suppressed or repressed, can resurface as unexplained emotions or reactions. The brain encodes emotional experiences in complex neural networks that don't always require conscious recall to influence mood, behavior, and perception. Consider how a smell, a sound, or a fleeting image can suddenly unleash a flood of feelings, nostalgia, fear, joy, without any obvious connection. These triggers tap into your forgotten files, opening windows into past selves, experiences, and wounds that remain hidden beneath the surface, yet remain alive within your emotional landscape. So, when sudden emotions hit without origin, they aren't random or meaningless. They are whispers from your deeper self, echoes from forgotten file memories that continue to silently shape the story of who you are, weaving invisible threads across time and consciousness. Imagine sinking into comfort that feels like a warm embrace. But beneath that warmth lies an invisible cage. Some places don't just offer coziness, they're crafted to keep you locked in, designed to stop you from leaving. This paradox of safety turning into a trap is woven deeply into human psychology and environment. Scientists reveal that the brain craves familiarity and security, releasing dopamine and oxytocin in comforting settings. But this craving can be exploited, creating spaces and routines that dull curiosity and freeze growth. Like a spider's web, the allure of comfort ensnares you, making the idea of escape feel dangerous or impossible. Architects and marketers understand this too. Retail stores use lighting, scents, and layouts that encourage lingering, while social spaces can foster dependence masked as belonging. Even toxic relationships mimic this trap, comforting routines that bind with invisible chains. Psychologically, comfort zones shrink your world, limiting exploration and risking stagnation. They create emotional inertia, where leaving feels like loss rather than liberation. So when comfort feels too safe, it's worth asking, am I resting or am I caught? Because sometimes, what soothes can also imprison, and the sweetest cage is the one disguised as home. Imagine closing your eyes and dreaming that you're falling asleep. Then, within that dream, you dream of waking up, but you're still trapped inside the endless layers of dreaming. How many layers deep are you now? Science reveals that dreams aren't just random images, but complex states of consciousness. The brain cycles through REM stages, where dreams are most vivid, and sometimes these stages nest within each other like a fractal of experiences. False awakenings, a well-documented phenomenon, occur when you dream of waking, only to realize you're still dreaming. This creates a hall of mirrors effect, where perception twists and reality feels slippery. Neurologically, different brain regions toggle between activity and rest during sleep. The prefrontal cortex, responsible for logic, may be offline, while sensory areas remain alert, leading to lucid moments embedded within deeper dreams. Philosophers have long wondered if consciousness is layered like this, a dream within a dream, blurring the line between what's real and imagined. Each sleep could be a gateway deeper into the self, a journey without end. So next time you drift off, remember, your mind might be slipping through infinite folds, a traveler lost in the labyrinth of sleep inside sleep. Imagine feeling grief without a clear cause, nostalgia for places you've never visited, or joy sparked by a scent you've never encountered. These emotions arise without direct events to explain them, challenging our understanding of how feelings connect to experience. Neuroscience reveals that emotions are not just reactions to the present, they emerge from complex networks within the brain that blend memory, imagination, and unconscious processing. The limbic system stores emotional associations, sometimes triggered by subtle cues or unconscious links to past experiences, even ancestral memories. Psychologists speak of implicit memory and emotional resonance, where feelings surface without conscious context. This phenomenon also connects to phenomena like déjà vu or phantom memories, where the brain creates emotional echoes detached from actual events. Sometimes, these emotions tap into collective unconscious patterns, shared human experiences encoded deeply within us. Emotion without event blurs the line between reality and perception, reminding us that feelings are not always tied to what we see or remember, but also to hidden layers of the mind. So when you feel something unexplained, it may be your brain reaching into depths beyond your immediate reality, whispering secrets of the unseen. Imagine walking through your day and noticing that everything feels just a little off. Prices on signs don't quite match what you expect. Faces in the crowd seem subtly different. Clocks tick, but time itself feels skewed, off by a fraction, not broken, just misaligned. This unsettling sensation is more than mere perception. It's a profound glitch in how your brain and reality synchronize. Science shows our brains constantly predict and correct sensory input to create a seamless experience. When this system falters, tiny errors slip through, like a subtle mismatch in the flow of time or a slight distortion in familiar patterns. These prediction errors make the world feel uncanny, as if reality is nudging out of joint. Quantum physics offers an even stranger possibility, that the fabric of reality itself may fluctuate at microscopic scales, causing slight inconsistencies in what should be stable. These microshifts ripple up to our perception, manifesting as that eerie feeling that nothing quite adds up. Psychologically, this can also reflect moments of cognitive dissonance, when your internal expectations clash with external reality. Your mind struggles to reconcile the difference, creating a fog of confusion and discomfort. In these moments, your senses whisper that something fundamental is misaligned, not broken, but askew, hinting that the world you know is layered with subtle imperfections just beyond awareness. So, when everything feels off by one, listen closely. It might be your consciousness tuning into the hidden fractures beneath the surface of normalcy. Imagine standing before a painting you've never seen before, yet somehow you already know the next stroke, the hidden details waiting to unfold. A mysterious familiarity washes over you, as if you've been here before, in a place that doesn't exist anywhere else. This uncanny experience reveals how memory, perception, and consciousness intertwine in profound and surprising ways. Psychologists call this phenomenon cryptomnesia, where forgotten memories resurface disguised as new insights. Your brain taps into buried impressions, stitching together fragmented memories to predict what comes next, constructing a hidden narrative beneath your conscious awareness. It's as if your mind is completing the painting before you've consciously realized it. Neuroscience shows that the brain functions as a prediction engine, constantly anticipating future sensory inputs based on past experience. When you view art, your brain simulates potential futures, filling in gaps to create a coherent and compelling story. This predictive process can evoke feelings of déjà vu or uncanny familiarity, even when the experience is genuinely new and unique. Consider the role of subconscious pattern recognition. Your mind identifies shapes, colors, and emotions that resonate with past encounters, sometimes ones you don't consciously recall. This silent dialogue between memory and perception blurs the line between what is remembered and what is imagined, creating a seamless blend of both. So, when you remember the painting before you've fully seen it, you're witnessing your brain's remarkable ability to weave past and present into a seamless flow, revealing that memory and perception are less separate than they seem. Both are brushstrokes on the ever-changing canvas of your conscious experience. Imagine setting out on a journey without a map, footsteps marked, but destination unknown. You feel the pull of somewhere ahead, a silent promise of arrival, yet no one has told you where to go. This tension between movement and meaning sees at the heart of human experience, striving toward a place you can't quite name, driven by instinct and hope. Neuroscience tells us the brain constantly seeks patterns and goals, wiring motivation even in uncertainty. Dopamine fuels the feeling of pursuit, giving purpose to wandering through life's labyrinth without a clear path. Psychologically, this mirrors existential quests where meaning is not given but constructed. You're marked by invisible signposts, hopes, fears, memories that guide you through the map is missing. Philosophers speak of the journey itself as the destination, where arrival is less a place than a feeling, a state of being. You move forward, not knowing exactly where, yet the sensation of nearing something real never fades. This paradox teaches us that sometimes the road matters more than the map, and feeling marked without direction is a fundamental rhythm of life's unfolding mystery. Imagine looking back on your life and realizing it only makes sense in hindsight. The moments, the choices, the chaos, they seem connected, woven into a story. But what if that story isn't about understanding, but about survival? Neuroscience tells us our brains are wired to create narratives. We are storytelling animals, constantly piecing together fragments of experience into coherent plots. This narrative construction helps us predict the world, anticipate danger, and maintain a stable sense of self. But these stories are not objective truths. They are edited, rearranged, and sometimes fabricated to keep us going. Psychologists call this the narrative bias, our mind's survival mechanism that favors coherence over accuracy. Memory itself is reconstructive, not reproductive. Each recall reshapes the past, aligning it with the story we need today. This is why trauma victims, survivors, and everyday people craft versions of their lives that protect their emotional core. So maybe your life story isn't about uncovering a final truth. Maybe it's a fragile thread holding you together, a survival tool rather than a map of reality. Next time you question your past, remember, your narrative exists to help you survive, to give meaning, even if that meaning is an illusion crafted by the mind. Imagine dreaming that you died, your own death unfolding in vivid detail. When you wake, something inside feels lighter, as if a part of you didn't return from that dream version of yourself. Dreams are more than random images. Neuroscience shows they are crucial for processing emotions and consolidating memories. The experience of dying in a dream may symbolize the shedding of old identities or emotional burdens, a psychological death-clearing space for renewal. Psychologists view this as a form of symbolic transformation, where the mind rehearses letting go, preparing for change without physical harm. This can explain why you feel lighter afterward, as if a fragment of past pain or fear has been released. Lucid dreaming studies reveal that during REM sleep, the brain simulates experiences intensely, allowing us to confront fears and unresolved conflicts safely. In this liminal space, death is not an end, but a passage, a reset button for your psyche. So when you dreamt your death, maybe you were not dying, but being reborn, leaving behind parts of yourself that no longer serve, emerging lighter and freer in the waking world. Imagine standing in complete silence, yet sensing that this silence isn't empty. It hums with unseen vibrations, a quiet resonance that seems to wait patiently for you to hear what lies hidden beneath the static. This paradox challenges our understanding of sound, perception, and the nature of reality itself. Physics tells us that silence, as absolute absence of sound waves, is nearly impossible in the natural world. Instead, what we call silence is often filled with subtle background noise, ambient hums, electromagnetic vibrations, or the faint whisper of air molecules in motion. Our ears and brains translate this into a texture of silence that is alive, not empty. Neurologically, when external sounds fade, your brain amplifies internal noises, the pulse in your veins, the rhythm of your breath, or the neural static of your own thoughts. This internal hum can feel like the sound of nothing, yet it carries layers of meaning and presence. Psychologically, silence invites introspection and heightened awareness. It's a space where the mind tunes into hidden patterns, moments of clarity or whispers from the subconscious that remain unnoticed amid daily noise. In many spiritual traditions, silence is not absence but fullness, a gateway to deeper consciousness and connection. The sound of nothing becomes a canvas for listening beyond words, beyond form. So next time you find yourself in silence, don't rush to fill it. Listen closely. The hum, waiting in the static, might just be the universe speaking in its quietest voice. Imagine a choice you made years ago, a fork in your life's path that you fully believed happened. Yet, somewhere deep beneath your awareness, that decision never truly occurred. Still, its ripples echo through your life, shaping circumstances, relationships, and feelings as if it had. This paradox reveals how memory, perception, and consequence can unravel and reweave our reality in unexpected and profound ways. Psychologists explore this phenomenon through the lens of false memories and alternate mental timelines. Our minds are not perfect recorders, but storytellers, constantly reconstructing the past to fit present narratives. Sometimes, we hold on to decisions that feel real but never happened, while their imagined consequences become woven deeply into our lived experience and sense of self. Neuroscience shows how the brain simulates possible futures and rewrites memories with every recall, blending fact with fiction. This mental time travel creates a fluid sense of identity, where what we remember is as much a creative act as it is recollection. The lines between what truly happened and what could have happened blur in the theater of the mind. Consider how regrets or what-if scenarios can feel tangible, influencing your choices and emotions despite their unreal origin. These phantom decisions, tales that were heads, remind us that our personal histories are as fragile and malleable as our present selves, shaped by the stories we tell ourselves. So, when you confront a consequence from a choice you never truly made, recognize the power of your mind's narrative. Reality isn't fixed. It's a dance of memory, imagination, and time, where heads and tails blur and intertwine into one continuous flow of being. Imagine meeting new faces, yet every conversation feels hauntingly familiar, as if you're trapped in a script replaying the same lines over and over. Different people, different places, but the dialogue echoes with eerie sameness, like a dream where forgotten words resurface in loops you can't escape. This unsettling pattern reveals how memory and perception intertwine, blurring novelty with repetition. Neuroscience explains that our brains rely on schemas, mental templates built from past experiences, to predict social interactions. These templates help us anticipate responses, but can also trap us in cycles of familiar behavior, making each encounter feel like a rerun. Psychologists note this phenomenon in déjà vu and in conditions like depersonalization, where reality feels surreal and repetitive. The mind recycles fragments of dialogue and emotion, weaving them into a looping narrative. Even dreams borrow from waking life, remixing conversations into surreal echoes. These recycled dialogues remind us how memory isn't a perfect recorder, but an active editor, rewriting stories with faded ink and reused lines. Living within this pattern challenges our sense of originality and connection, revealing how deeply we're shaped by repetition, even in moments we think are new. Imagine witnessing an event unfold, but realizing you felt its aftermath before it even began. This paradox, where effect seems to precede cause, challenges everything we understand about time and perception. Neuroscience reveals that our brains don't passively wait for events. They actively predict the future. The mind creates anticipations based on patterns, memories, and context, sometimes causing you to feel emotions or reactions before the actual stimulus arrives. Studies show the brain can register signals milliseconds before conscious awareness, meaning your feelings and thoughts can precede the events you believe trigger them. This blurs the line between cause and effect, collapsing time's linearity. Physicists even explore retrocausality, where future events influence past ones on quantum scales. While controversial, these theories echo our subjective experience. Sometimes we sense the outcome before the start. So when you feel a wave of sadness, joy, or dread before the moment calls for it, you're tapping into your brain's predictive power, a mysterious dance where cause and effect entwine and time folds onto itself. This phenomenon reminds us that reality is not just what happens, but how our mind shapes when it happens, blurring the boundary between past, present, and future. Imagine witnessing something that defies explanation, a phenomenon that works when by all known laws, it shouldn't. You might call it magic, but what if it's not magic at all? What if it's a forgotten part of reality, a crack in our understanding where hidden truths leak through? Physics tells us that reality is far stranger than everyday experience suggests. Quantum mechanics reveals particles behaving unpredictably, entanglement connecting distant points, and forces bending in ways we barely grasp. Our classical worldview, the one taught in schools, is a simplified map of a far more complex territory. Sometimes, what seems supernatural might be phenomena slipping through the gaps of our current knowledge. History shows many magical beliefs faded as science advanced. Once mysterious lightning became understood as electricity. Perhaps some mysteries remain, hidden in the folds of physics we have yet to decode. This idea challenges the boundary between science and wonder, urging us to question where the laws of nature end and the unknown begins. So when you see something impossible, consider, maybe it's not magic, but the universe reminding you that its deepest secrets are still unfolding. Imagine standing before a mirror and feeling more than just your physical reflection. You feel exposed, not in body, but in mind. As if the glass knows your secrets, the thoughts you haven't dared to speak aloud. This unsettling sensation goes beyond superstition. It taps into the profound connection between perception, consciousness, and self-awareness. Mirrors don't just reflect light, they reflect how your brain processes your identity. When you look into a mirror, Your mind engages complex networks responsible for self-recognition and emotional processing. This can trigger a heightened state of self-awareness where unspoken fears, desires, and thoughts seem to surface. Psychologists call this the mirror effect, where your reflection acts as a silent witness to your inner world, amplifying self-judgment and emotional vulnerability. The mirror becomes a gateway, showing not just your face, but the invisible narrative swirling inside your mind. Some theories even suggest mirrors serve as psychological tools that reveal subconscious truths, confronting you with parts of yourself hidden in daily life. In moments of quiet reflection, the mirror seems to know what you've left unspoken because it's reflecting your entire being, not just the surface. This phenomenon reminds us that self-perception is layered, complex, and deeply intertwined with our mental landscape. When you see your reflection, you're glimpsing more than flesh and bone. You're facing the unvoiced chapters of your own story. So next time you meet your gaze in the mirror, listen closely. It might be reflecting not just your image, but the thoughts your mind keeps in shadow. Imagine recalling an event with such certainty that you swear it happened yesterday, but when you check, it actually occurred today. Your memory insists on a timeline that doesn't quite fit, as if your life story has been edited, scenes moved out of order for dramatic tension. This unsettling feeling reveals the incredible malleability of memory and our perception of time. Psychologists explain this as a memory distortion, where our brain reconstructs events rather than simply replaying them like a video. Memories are not static recordings, but dynamic, evolving reconstructions influenced by context, emotions, expectations, and subsequent experiences. This can lead to temporal dislocation, where the timing and order of events become fluid and sometimes confused. Neuroscience shows that the brain encodes memories in fragments distributed across different regions. When recalling, these fragments are pieced together, which can cause errors in sequence and timing. The hippocampus plays a key role in ordering memories in time, but this complex process is imperfect and susceptible to interference, decay, or blending. Consider how factors like stress, sleep deprivation, fatigue, or emotional states can further disrupt memory sequencing. The brain, in its quest for coherence and meaning, may rearrange events to create a narrative that feels emotionally or logically satisfying, even if it distorts the factual accuracy of your experiences. So when events feel rearranged, it's not your mind betraying you. It's your brain's remarkable attempt to keep your story meaningful and continuous, editing time's script with the subtle art of perception, memory, and the relentless flow of consciousness. Imagine a moment when you guess something with uncanny accuracy, not a random shot, but a feeling so certain it feels like unlocking a memory from the future. It's as if your mind reached ahead in time and plucked knowledge before your conscious self caught up. This phenomenon defies logic, yet countless people experience these eerie flashes of precognition. Science calls this predictive processing. Your brain constantly models what's coming next, based on past data and subtle cues. But sometimes, these predictions are so precise, they feel like foresight, blurring the line between anticipation and memory. Quantum physics hints at time's fluidity, where cause and effect may not be strictly linear. The idea that future events can influence present perception challenges classical views and opens doors to mysteries about consciousness and time. Psychologists study déjà vu and precognitive dreams as windows into this strange overlap of memory and prediction. These experiences suggest your mind is not merely reacting, but engaging in a dance with time, guessing, remembering, and knowing before knowing. In that moment, the future feels like the past, and certainty blooms from uncertainty, revealing how deeply intertwined memory, time, and intuition truly are. Imagine living through a week where coincidences pile up unnaturally, so many alignments. It feels less like chance and more like a glitch in reality's script. Our brains are wired to find patterns, to create meaning from chaos, but sometimes those patterns seem too perfect, too deliberate. Statistically, coincidences happen more often than we expect. The human mind is a pattern-seeking machine, constantly weaving stories to make sense of random events. But when coincidences cluster tightly, it triggers a sense of unease, as if something behind the scenes is trying to fix a broken narrative. Psychologists call this apophenia, the tendency to perceive connections where none exist. It's a survival mechanism, helping us anticipate dangers and opportunities, but it can also fool us into believing in design where there is only randomness. Even quantum physics suggests the universe is not entirely predictable, yet our consciousness craves order. When coincidences stack unnaturally, it feels like reality itself is struggling to maintain coherence, like a scriptwriter hurriedly rewriting scenes to avoid plot holes. So next time your life feels oddly choreographed, remember, your mind is both creator and observer, trying to make sense of a world that might just be beautifully, frustratingly random. Imagine living a Wednesday that feels strangely familiar, as if you've lived this exact day 3 times before. The details are almost the same, but just shifted enough to keep you from panicking. This uncanny sensation touches on how our brains process time and memory. Neuroscience reveals that our perception of time is not a constant flow, but a constructed experience shaped by attention, memory, and expectation. Small variations in routine, environment, or mood can make days blend together or feel eerily repeated. Psychologists call this temporal déjà vu, where the mind recognizes patterns across days but notes slight differences, causing a sensation of days reused. The brain's predictive mechanisms are constantly comparing new experiences against stored memories, detecting mismatches that create a subtle sense of repetition. This phenomenon reminds us that our experience of time is flexible, subjective, and sometimes looping in ways that defy strict chronology. So when you feel that Wednesday returning with a twist, it may be your mind's way of highlighting the delicate dance between memory, perception, and the passage of time. Imagine chaos unfolding around you, everything falling apart in ways that feel random, yet strangely, perfectly symmetrical. Life's disasters, heartbreaks, and sudden turns line up with poetic structure, as if some unseen force is watching, weaving your pain into art. This unsettling harmony challenges our understanding of chance and order. Science teaches us that the universe balances randomness with patterns. Chaos theory shows how complex systems can create unexpected order from apparent disorder. Fractals emerge from randomness, revealing hidden symmetry in nature's chaos. Could your life's upheavals be echoes of these deeper cosmic patterns? Psychology reveals our brains are wired to seek meaning and patterns, even where none exist. This pattern seeking can create the illusion that everything aligns too well, that life's chaos is scripted for a purpose. We crave stories that make sense of suffering, crafting narratives where every loss and gain fits like a piece in a puzzle. Philosophically, this touches on ideas of fate and destiny, the belief that life's events are orchestrated with intent, transforming chaos into beauty. The poetic structure you perceive might be your consciousness mapping meaning onto randomness, a survival mechanism to cope with uncertainty. Whether real or perceived, the symmetry in chaos invites reflection. Maybe the universe isn't indifferent, but communicates through patterns, asking us to find art in the brokenness. So when everything lines up too well amid disaster, listen closely. You might be witnessing the silent brushstrokes of a cosmic artist painting your story. Imagine feeling behind in a race you never entered, running hard yet measuring your progress against a starting line you never saw, never acknowledged, never knew existed. This is the hidden trap of modern life, the crushing sense of being lost before you even begin, caught in systems, expectations, and comparisons designed without your knowledge or consent. Psychologists describe this as the imposter starting line, where invisible social, cultural, or personal pressures set benchmarks you never agreed to. You find yourself endlessly comparing your journey to others, feeling failure, anxiety, or inadequacy in a competition whose rules were never clear or fair, and whose finish line keeps moving. Neuroscience reveals how the brain's reward and motivation systems respond not only to actual achievement, but to perceived social comparison. When you believe you're falling behind, dopamine levels dip, motivation wanes, and anxiety rises, even if your own goals, dreams, or definitions of success are entirely different or still undefined. Consider how social media and constant connectivity amplify this effect, broadcasting curated highlights of others' lives, making it easy to believe everyone else began earlier, ran faster, or gained more. The hidden starting line becomes a mirage, a mental prison distracting you from your authentic path, your real purpose. So when you feel lost before you begin, remember, the race isn't always what it seems. Your true starting line might be invisible, waiting patiently for you to define it on your own terms. And in that freedom, in that self-definition, lies the real beginning, the power to run your own race without fear. Imagine suddenly tasting something vivid, sweet, metallic, warm, yet you can't link it to any food, memory, or moment. It lingers on your tongue, haunting and untraceable, as if a secret signal from a forgotten place or a hidden part of your mind. This strange sensation is more than a random glitch. It reveals the complex interplay between perception, memory, and the brain's mysterious depths. Neuroscience explains that taste is not just chemical signals on the tongue, but a rich cognitive experience shaped by expectation and memory. The brain reconstructs flavor by combining sensory input with past associations. Sometimes, this process misfires, generating phantom tastes without external cause. Psychologists link such experiences to phantogeusia, a phenomenon where taste perceptions arise spontaneously or due to neurological triggers. These phantom flavors can evoke emotions and memories, even when their origin is unknown. Beyond biology, some theories suggest these ghostly tastes tap into subconscious layers, fragments of experiences buried deep, surfacing without context. Like echoes from a hidden archive, they remind us that perception is never simple or purely physical. The taste from nowhere lingers as a quiet mystery, an invitation to explore how reality, memory, and sensation intertwine in ways we barely understand. Imagine feeling like your entire existence is prepackaged, your decisions, desires, and fears neatly labeled, as if you were shipped inside a box before even arriving here. This sensation questions the very nature of free will and identity. Neuroscience reveals much of what we consider conscious choice is influenced by unconscious processes. Our brains operate on patterns learned from genetics, environment, and experience, often guiding decisions before awareness catches up. Psychologists describe this as the illusion of agency, where the feeling of control masks deeper mechanisms shaped by biology and conditioning. Our desires and fears might be preloaded, part of a mental software running before we ever debug it. Philosophers debate whether free will is real or just a narrative we tell ourselves to feel unique. If everything feels prepackaged, maybe our lives are less about forging paths and more about unpacking predetermined scripts. Yet, within these confines, there remains room for interpretation, growth, and rebellion. Understanding the packaging doesn't mean surrendering to it. It means becoming aware of the box and learning how to open it. So when life feels scripted, remember, knowing the design is the first step toward rewriting your own story. Imagine witnessing a fire that doesn't burn, a destruction that paradoxically brings peace. Loss unfolds, yet somehow heals. Ruin arrives, but it feels like home. This paradox challenges our instinctive understanding of pain and suffering. Neuroscience reveals that the brain processes trauma not only as damage, but also as transformation. Psychological theories of post-traumatic growth explain how individuals can emerge stronger, finding meaning and resilience amid chaos. Just as forests rely on fire to regenerate and thrive, the human psyche sometimes needs destruction to rebuild itself anew. This duality, pain entwined with healing, exists deep within our biology and culture. Fire, a symbol of destruction, also embodies purification and renewal. It burns away what no longer serves, creating space for growth and peace. So, not everything consumed by flames harms. Some fires illuminate hidden strength, turning loss into a sanctuary. This paradox invites us to reconsider the nature of suffering, reminding us that within destruction lies the seed of restoration and belonging. Imagine climbing a staircase endlessly, emotionally, mentally, spiritually, expecting the scenery to shift, the view to open, but it never does. The steps lead nowhere. You move forward, yet feel stuck in the same place. Sighs. Progress without motion. Motion without meaning. This paradox echoes a profound struggle within the human experience. Psychology explores this as the phenomenon of stagnation despite effort. Your brain craves growth and novelty, yet sometimes emotional or cognitive patterns create loops, cycling through the same challenges without resolution. It's like walking on a treadmill. You're active, but the landscape remains static. Neurologically, neural pathways strengthen with repetition. Without fresh input or change, your mind falls into habitual loops, reinforcing familiar but unproductive patterns. Even spiritual or personal growth can stall if introspection becomes self-contained rather than expansive. Philosophers describe this as existential limbo, a space where action feels futile and meaning feels elusive. The sensation of climbing without a rival forces a confrontation with what progress truly means. Is it external change, internal transformation, or both? Yet, within this stasis lies a hidden lesson. Sometimes, stillness is necessary before breakthrough. The feeling of moving nowhere may signal a pause, a recalibration before a new path unfolds. So if your steps seem to lead nowhere, remember, even motion without visible change is part of the journey. The landscape may be the same, but your perception and self may be quietly shifting beneath the surface. Imagine ideas and thoughts appearing in your mind uninvited, like guests who arrive without notice, linger briefly, and then leave. Some stay longer, some slip away unnoticed. Yet none ever feel like they belong to you completely. This strange dance reveals a profound and humbling truth. You don't truly own your thoughts. Neuroscience shows that thoughts emerge from complex brain networks interacting beneath conscious awareness. The default mode network, responsible for self-referential thinking, generates a constant flow of mental chatter. Ideas arise spontaneously, often without any clear origin or intention, a ceaseless cascade of mental phenomena beyond full control. Philosophers and cognitive scientists have long debated the nature of thought ownership. The illusion of control suggests that while you feel in command of your mind, many thoughts are spontaneous intrusions, products of biology, memory, and external stimuli blending together in unpredictable ways. Consider how a song, phrase, or image suddenly pops into your head, seemingly from nowhere, or how creative insights can arrive unexpectedly, as if borrowed from a collective consciousness that connects us all. These moments highlight that thoughts are fluid, transient, and communal rather than fixed possessions tethered solely to one individual. So when you feel your mind fill with thoughts that seem foreign, alien, or inexplicably familiar, remember, you are the stage where ideas play their fleeting roles, not the master holding full control. To embrace this can bring freedom, humility, and a deeper connection to the shared flow of consciousness itself, a river we all drink from but never fully own. Imagine stepping into a room you know well, but something feels profoundly off. A door you remember clearly is missing. A window has swapped sides. The furniture's familiar arrangement now subtly skewed. You pause, caught between memory and reality. Are these changes real, or is your mind altering what you recall? This unsettling sensation highlights how fragile and malleable our perception of space truly is. Neuroscience reveals that your brain's hippocampus constructs mental maps of places, but these maps aren't perfect recordings. They are reconstructed every time you remember. Small discrepancies can creep in, causing memories to shift or warp, blending with present perception. Psychologists note this phenomenon in conditions like confabulation and spatial disorientation, where the line between memory and modification blurs. Even everyday forgetfulness can create subtle alterations that feel like a different reality. This experience questions what it means to know a place. Is it the physical room itself, or the image in your mind? When places rearrange slightly, it reminds us that reality isn't fixed. It's a dynamic interplay between external world and internal memory, where even the most familiar can become strangely unfamiliar. Imagine every good moment in your life coming with a price, a shadow following the light. When fortune smiles, misfortune seems poised to balance the scales. It's not karma, nor fate, but a complex balancing algorithm hidden beneath the surface of your perceived reality. Psychologists explain this through the lens of cognitive biases. The human mind craves equilibrium, so it overemphasizes negative events following positives, creating a mental ledger of balance. This just world hypothesis makes us believe the universe keeps score, but it's actually our brains seeking order in chaos. Neuroscience shows our reward systems react intensely to good events, but our threat detection amplifies the impact of bad ones, heightening the sense that luck comes at a cost. This interplay shapes how we experience life's ebb and flow. Philosophers argue that reality may itself be a dreamlike simulation, a system constantly adjusting to maintain balance and coherence. The balancing algorithm is not a cosmic punishment, but a structural feature, ensuring the story unfolds with tension and meaning. So when you notice the price of luck, don't see it as doom. See it as the universe's way of keeping the narrative alive, a reminder that perfection is an illusion, and every dream has its shadows. Imagine being safest inside a dream, a world where your fears are held at bay, a sanctuary built by your mind. Yet waking up pulls you closer to the very dangers the dream was shielding you from. Neuroscience shows that dreams serve as emotional processing arenas, rehearsing threats in a controlled environment so you can face reality better prepared. During REM sleep, the brain activates fear circuits while dampening actual physical responses, creating a simulation that helps reduce anxiety. Psychologists believe dreams are a protective cloak, buffering you from trauma and stress. But when the alarm of waking sounds, the shield fades, and the rawness of real life emerges. The paradox is stark. Your safest place is not in the conscious world, but in the fragile landscape of dreams, where dangers can be confronted without harm. This blurs the line between refuge and reality, reminding us that sometimes protection lies not in escape, but in the mind's hidden rehearsals. So, while awake may feel real, remember that safety often resides in the dream's gentle hold. Imagine a stranger approaching and uttering something uncannily personal, a comment, a name, a phrase straight from your dreams. You brush it off as coincidence, but deep down, you know it isn't. This unsettling experience challenges how we understand memory, connection, and the mysteries of human consciousness. Psychologists call this cryptomnesia, the mind recalling forgotten information without awareness. Sometimes, fragments of overheard conversations or subconscious observations resurface unexpectedly, making it seem like others know your secrets. Yet, beyond psychology, there's a darker, stranger side. Studies in parapsychology explore telepathy and collective consciousness, theories suggesting minds might tap into shared networks beyond physical senses, allowing some people to access thoughts or memories not their own. Neurologically, the brain's pattern recognition can create false connections, linking unrelated events into meaningful narratives. This can amplify the feeling that strangers know too much, making coincidences feel like intentional messages. In many cultures, such moments are seen as signs or warnings, reminders that our inner worlds are not as private as we believe. Whether explained by science or mystery, the experience shakes the foundation of personal boundaries. So next time someone speaks your hidden truth, listen closely. It might be coincidence or a glimpse into the unseen threads that connect us all. Imagine thinking, yet the thoughts don't feel like they come from inside you. Instead, They arrive as if broadcast signals from an unseen source, flickering in and out like radio waves caught by a distant tower. What if your brain isn't the origin of thought, but merely a receiver, a complex antenna tuning into a vast universal consciousness beyond your individual self? This idea isn't just science fiction or mysticism. Some neuroscientists and philosophers propose that consciousness might extend beyond the physical brain, a concept known as panpsychism, or the receiver theory of mind. According to this view, the brain acts more like an antenna, filtering and tuning into a universal field of information, awareness, and thought. Recent studies in quantum mechanics and consciousness research hint at non-local connections, where information isn't confined to one location but shared instantaneously across space and time. This could explain why thoughts sometimes feel alien, sudden, or inspired from beyond personal experience, slipping in as fleeting transmissions from a collective mental space. Consider moments of sudden insight or creativity, ideas appearing fully formed, as if downloaded from elsewhere, or the eerie feeling that a thought, emotion, or presence isn't originally yours, but borrowed from a greater shared consciousness. So, when your brain feels like a receiver, it may be opening to a vast, interconnected network of awareness far greater than the individual self. Embracing this possibility can expand your understanding of identity, thought, and the mysterious source of your inner world, a signal not created by you, but received through you. Imagine closing your eyes and drifting into sleep, only to awaken somewhere else entirely, another world with different rules, colors, and logic. It's as if your consciousness transfers across dimensions, slipping through a veil between realities. Yet, no matter how far you wander in that strange place, you always return to your body, mostly intact, but changed in ways you can't fully explain. Science shows that sleep is far from a passive state. During REM phases, your brain weaves vivid, often surreal dreams where time and space bend. Neuroscientists believe dreams are a form of consciousness exploring internal worlds, but some theories hint at deeper, more mysterious shifts, portals where the mind transfers to alternate realities or parallel states. Psychologists describe this as dissociative experiences or astral projection-like sensations, where the self feels detached, moving between layers of awareness. The feeling of returning mostly hints at the fragility of this journey. Some fragments linger, memories hazy, emotions lingering like echoes from elsewhere. This sleep transfer paradox blurs the line between waking and dreaming, reality and illusion. It invites us to consider whether sleep is a nightly voyage beyond the known, a transfer to hidden realms before the familiar world calls us back. Imagine asking a question years ago, one that lingered quietly in your mind. Now, long after you've forgotten the question itself, the answer arrives unexpectedly. It hits with a sting, sharper than you expected, because the context has vanished, but the emotion remains. This delayed response isn't just coincidence. Neuroscience reveals that memory and emotion are deeply intertwined. Sometimes, unresolved thoughts and feelings resurface triggered by new information or experiences, even when the original cause has faded. Psychologists describe this as emotional resurfacing, where dormant questions buried in your subconscious suddenly demand attention, causing discomfort or clarity out of the blue. Philosophically, it reminds us that time doesn't always heal or answer. Instead, it can delay understanding, making insights arrive too late to change the question, but not too late to affect the heart. So when a late message arrives and the question seems lost, remember, the answer still matters. It echoes through time, asking you to reflect, to grow, and to reconcile with the past you thought you left behind. Imagine existing beside the clock. Time flows all around you, but inside, it feels paused. Days pass, seasons shift, and others change, but something within you remains frozen, untouched by the relentless march. Neuroscience reveals that our sense of time is tied to memory and consciousness. When the brain's internal clock or emotional processing falters through trauma, dissociation, or depression, time can feel suspended. Psychologists describe this as a form of temporal disconnection, where the present moment loses its flow, leaving a sense of being stuck outside time. While the world spins forward, your inner experience feels like a paused frame in a moving film. This feeling can isolate, making you a silent observer of life's changes rather than an active participant. Yet, it also offers a strange refuge, a moment outside the chaos. This paradox challenges how we understand living and being, revealing that time is not just measured by clocks, but felt deeply within. So when you fall out of time, you become both outsider and witness, caught between movement and stillness. Imagine setting your sights on a goal that feels crystal clear. You take aim, focus every ounce of your energy, and start closing the distance. But just as you get close, the target shifts, elusive, just out of reach. It's not because you changed, but because the goal never wanted to be caught. This experience shakes your trust in effort, progress, and certainty. Psychology explains this as goal displacement, where objectives subtly change over time, often unconsciously. As you pursue a goal, your priorities, values, or perceptions evolve, making the original target seem to move away even if you haven't consciously altered your aim. Neurologically, the brain's reward system can shift focus, chasing dopamine hits tied to progress rather than completion. This causes a loop of striving without fulfillment, as the brain unconsciously resets goals to maintain motivation. Philosophically, this speaks to the paradox of desire. The more you chase something, the more it slips away. It challenges the notion of fixed outcomes, suggesting life's goals are fluid, shaped by context, growth, and unseen forces. Quantum physics introduces ideas of uncertainty and observer effect, hinting that your focus might influence the very target you seek, causing it to shift in response to your approach. So when your target moves mid-shot, remember it's not failure. It's the universe's way of teaching flexibility, resilience, and the art of embracing uncertainty on your journey. Imagine looking in the mirror and seeing a familiar face, but feeling like a placeholder, an unfinished file in the system of your own identity. You possess a name, a face, a history, but the core, the essence that defines you, feels missing, as if the real version of yourself is delayed, stuck in a loading state that never fully completes, frozen between moments of clarity and emptiness. This sensation, rooted in depersonalization and derealization disorders, reveals profound truths about how the brain constructs identity. Scientific research shows that our sense of self is not a fixed entity, but an emergent property arising from the continuous integration of sensory input, memory, emotion, and social feedback. Neuroscientifically, areas like the default mode network and the temporoparietal junction play critical roles in forming self-awareness and the feeling of embodiment. When these neural circuits falter or disconnect due to trauma, anxiety, neurological disruption, or extreme stress, the seamless experience of I am me fractures, leaving behind a hollow shell or a mere placeholder. Consider survivors of trauma or severe stress, who often report feeling like strangers in their own bodies, as if their core self is absent or delayed. Even in healthy individuals, moments of dissociation or intense emotional upheaval can temporarily interrupt identity's loading process, revealing how fragile and constructed our sense of being truly is. So, when you feel like a placeholder, remember, identity is not a static file stored deep within you. It is a dynamic, ongoing process, sometimes lagging, sometimes fragmenting, but always evolving. The real self may be delayed, but it is never lost, continuously shaping itself in the quiet, unseen moments between thought, memory, and presence. Imagine watching yourself move through life as if from a distance, a silent observer peering at your own actions, disconnected yet intimately familiar. It's like you're slightly misaligned from the character wearing your skin, a ghost inhabiting a familiar body but never fully merging. This sensation challenges the unity we expect between mind and self. Neuroscience shows that this experience, known as depersonalization, involves disruptions in how the brain integrates sensory, emotional, and bodily signals. The prefrontal cortex, responsible for self-awareness, becomes overactive, creating a split where you perceive yourself as an outsider looking in. Psychologists explain this detachment as a coping mechanism during stress or trauma, where the mind distances itself to reduce emotional pain. But it can also occur spontaneously, blurring the boundary between self and observer. Philosophers ponder the nature of the self as a narrative, questioning whether the I is stable or fragmented. Watching yourself too much reveals how fragile and constructed our sense of identity truly is. In that space, you exist both inside and outside your being, a paradox where self-observation becomes a form of estrangement, a reminder that who we are is sometimes a story told from many perspectives. Imagine suddenly panicking, heart racing, breath shallow, but there's no clear reason, no threat, no danger, just a cold, creeping feeling, like something just left the room or is about to arrive. This is fear with no object, an ancient alarm ringing without a cause. Neuroscience explains that anxiety isn't always triggered by external events. The brain's threat detection system is hypersensitive, evolved to protect us from unseen dangers. Sometimes it fires false alarms, panic without a visible predator. Psychologists call this a fear response, uncoupled from stimulus. It can stem from past trauma, chemical imbalances, or the brain's prediction engine misfiring, anticipating threats that don't exist. This invisible fear taps into the primal parts of our brain, the amygdala and hypothalamus, that respond faster than conscious thought. They create sensations of dread, even in empty rooms, as if sensing unseen presences. Philosophers and scientists alike acknowledge this as a reminder. Fear is not always about what's outside, but what's stirring inside. A cold signal from deep within, echoing our survival instinct in a world full of uncertainty. So, next time you feel this objectless panic, remember, it's your brain's way of saying, be alert, even when there's nothing to see. Imagine chasing a breakthrough, the moment when everything shifts, when change arrives. Yet, it always feels just out of reach, forever one step beyond your grasp. Neuroscience explains this as the brain's intricate dance between reward and anticipation. Dopamine, the neurotransmitter of motivation, spikes as you near a goal, fueling hope and drive. But when the reward never fully arrives, that anticipation can become a loop, trapping you in a state of almost. Psychologists describe this as the Zeigarnik effect, where unfinished tasks linger in your mind, compelling attention but denying closure. This endless verge creates a tension, a bittersweet dance between hope and frustration. The mind's craving for change keeps you moving, yet the elusive breakthrough remains just beyond the horizon. It's a paradox of progress. The journey fuels desire, but the destination feels unreachable. This reveals how our perception of success and transformation is deeply tied to the mind's need for meaning and narrative. So when you're always almost there, you're caught between possibility and patience, forever chasing the moment that never fully arrives. Imagine your life feeling stable, yet that stability feels fragile, like everything you depend on is balanced precariously on tiny pins. One sudden emotional gust, one unexpected thought, and the whole structure could unravel. This delicate tension captures the vulnerability beneath the surface of our perceived reality. Neuroscience reveals that our sense of stability depends on a complex interplay of brain networks integrating sensory information, memories, and emotions. When this integration weakens through stress, trauma, or mental fatigue, the fabric of reality feels tenuous, as if held together by fragile threads. Psychologically, this sensation reflects the precarious balance of mental health. Anxiety, depression, or overwhelm can make even familiar environments seem unstable. The mind becomes hyper-aware of how little it takes to disrupt equilibrium. Quantum physics offers a metaphor. Just as particles exist in delicate superpositions until observed, our perception of reality requires constant reinforcement. Without that steady observation, our attention and cognitive processing, our experience can feel like it's floating on fragile supports. Philosophically, this speaks to the human condition, the constant dance between order and chaos, certainty and doubt. The pins holding reality represent our attempts to make sense of an inherently unpredictable world. So when life feels like it's balanced on pins, remember, stability is not a fixed state, but a dynamic dance. Your awareness, resilience, and presence are the forces that keep it from falling apart. Imagine walking through a building where corners bend wrong, hallways stretch endlessly, and space feels like it's slipping through your fingers. The architecture obeys rules, but the space itself rebels. Geometry becomes a suggestion, not an absolute law. This eerie distortion reveals how our brain constructs the spatial world, blending perception with expectation in ways that can bend and warp reality itself. Neuroscience shows that our sense of space relies on a complex interplay between the visual cortex, hippocampus, and parietal lobes, which work together to create mental maps that help us navigate and understand our environment. When these systems receive conflicting sensory signals, or when environments violate the spatial patterns we have learned, the brain struggles to reconcile the mismatch, causing feelings of unease, disorientation, and cognitive dissonance. Psychologists have long studied illusions like the Ames room, where carefully manipulated angles and perspectives deceive the mind, making normal shapes appear warped and distorted. These experiments reveal that spatial perception is not a fixed, objective process, but a highly malleable phenomenon, deeply dependent on context, memory, and sensory input. Even in familiar environments, subtle shifts in lighting, sound, or perspective can warp space within your mind, triggering that uncanny sensation of angles not feeling right. This challenges our fundamental understanding of reality, illustrating that the physical world and our experience of it are not always perfectly aligned. So when angles don't feel right, it's more than just a trick of the mind. It's a glimpse into the fragile architecture of human perception, a reminder that the geometry of our minds can bend, fold, and rebel against the laws we assume govern the universe itself. Imagine feeling so transparent to your own life that you float through yourself like mist, drifting through mist. You watch moments unfold around you with no resistance, no pushback, just gentle, effortless observation. It's as if your body and mind are separate clouds, intersecting yet never fully merging, a silent witness to your own existence. Neuroscience connects this sensation to dissociation, where brain regions responsible for self-awareness and bodily sensation disconnect, creating a floating, detached experience. The insula and prefrontal cortex may reduce communication, dimming the sense of embodied presence. Psychologists recognize this as a coping mechanism during overwhelming stress, where the mind retreats to protect itself by becoming diffuse, unbound. It's a paradoxical state of both being present and absent, alive yet removed. Philosophically, floating through yourself blurs the lines of identity and presence. You are simultaneously actor and spectator, participant and ghost, caught between being fully in the moment and effortlessly slipping beyond it. This fog-like state reveals the fragile and fluid nature of selfhood, how sometimes we drift through our lives not anchored, but softly moving through the shadows of ourselves. Imagine scrolling through old photos only to notice subtle changes. Your expression shifts, the background alters slightly. You stare longer, uncertain whether it's your memory playing tricks or something more deliberate, manipulation lurking in the shadows. Memory isn't static. It's fluid and reconstructive. Neuroscience shows that each time you recall an image or event, your brain reshapes it, blending fact and imagination. This means your memories of those photos may drift over time, making the familiar seem strange. But in the digital age, photos are more vulnerable than ever. Algorithms can subtly alter images, deepfakes blur the lines between real and fake, and every pixel can be rewritten. This creates a dissonance between what you remember and what now appears. Psychologists call this cognitive dissonance, a mental discomfort when reality doesn't match expectations. Your brain struggles to reconcile shifting images with your fixed memories, leaving you questioning what's true. These shifting photos are a reminder that memory and reality are fragile. They force us to confront the uncertainty of what we see, what we remember, and what can be altered without notice. So next time a photo seems to move, remember, the past is not always fixed, and perception is a dance between truth and illusion. Imagine opening a drawer and finding a tool you never remembered owning. It fits your hand perfectly, as if made just for you, but the memory of how it came to be there is lost. Neuroscience shows that our brains constantly absorb and learn, often outside conscious awareness. Implicit memory allows skills and knowledge to lodge deep within us, even when explicit recollection fades. Psychologists call this procedural memory, the muscle memory of knowing how without remembering when or where it was learned. This mysterious familiarity challenges our understanding of identity and experience, blurring the line between what we consciously hold and what lives beneath. Sometimes, objects or skills feel like extensions of ourselves, woven into our being without clear origin. It's as if parts of our past selves hide in shadows, resurfacing unexpectedly in the present. This phenomenon reminds us that memory is layered and fragmented, and that our sense of self carries unseen histories. So when you hold that forgotten tool, ask, what story lies behind its silent fit in your hand? Imagine feeling your heartbeat skip, but not just within your chest. Instead, you sense it echoing through the floor beneath you, vibrating in the air around you, as if your life pulses in two places at once. This uncanny sensation hints at a mysterious connection, as though a second version of you exists alongside, sharing the rhythm of your existence. Neuroscience tells us that our perception of the body's signals can extend beyond internal sensations. The brain integrates sensory inputs not only from within, but from the environment, blending them into a unified experience. Sometimes, this integration creates illusions, like feeling a pulse outside yourself, blurring boundaries between self and surroundings. Quantum physics adds deeper mystery. Concepts like entanglement suggest particles can be linked across distances, influencing one another instantaneously. If consciousness shares qualities with quantum phenomena, could your pulse truly resonate beyond your physical form, connecting with alternate versions of yourself in parallel realities? Psychology explores the idea of the extended self, where identity isn't confined to the body, but includes the environment, objects, and even other people. This expanded sense of self may explain why you feel your heartbeat in the world around you. The pulse echoes elsewhere invites us to reconsider where we end and reality begins. It suggests your existence might ripple through space and time, vibrating in sync with unseen counterparts. So next time your heart skips, listen closely, not just inside, but all around. Your life's rhythm might be part of a larger, shared pulse. Imagine stepping into an elevator expecting a familiar ride upward, but instead, it moves sideways, taking you somewhere entirely different. Not higher, not lower, but just elsewhere. This unsettling experience reflects how our brains anticipate patterns and rely on predictability, and how breaking those patterns can warp our sense of reality, shaking our confidence in the familiar. Neurologically, our brains operate on prediction. The predictive coding theory suggests that the brain continuously generates expectations about incoming sensory data and updates these expectations when reality diverges from the forecast. When the elevator moves sideways instead of up, the brain's predictions fail, triggering a profound sense of disorientation and confusion. Psychologically, this taps into our fundamental need for control and certainty. Unexpected shifts in environment challenge our mental models, causing anxiety and cognitive unrest. It reveals how much of our perceived reality is constructed by internal expectations, and how fragile and flexible that construction truly is. This sideways elevator is a metaphor for moments in life when the path you expected suddenly changes. when progress doesn't look like going up or down, but veering off into unknown territory. It's an invitation to embrace uncertainty, expand perspective, and redefine what movement and growth really mean beyond vertical metrics. So when you feel like the elevator moves sideways, remember, you're navigating a brain wired to expect patterns in a world that often defies them. This disorientation is not a failure. It's a signal that transformation, discovery, and new perspectives await beyond the boundaries of the familiar. Imagine feeling a sudden rush of happiness that feels oddly hollow, like a laugh track playing over your mood, echoing joy without real warmth beneath. It's lightness that feels artificial, synthetic, as if your emotions are being performed rather than genuinely experienced. This unsettling sensation reveals how complex and fragile our emotional world truly is. Neuroscience shows that genuine happiness involves deep activation of brain circuits linked to reward and social bonding, releasing chemicals like dopamine and oxytocin. But sometimes, external triggers or internal coping can create surface-level emotions, shallow reflections that mimic joy without substance. Psychologists call this affective flattening or emotional dissonance, where the heart's response is disconnected from authentic feeling. It can occur in depression, burnout, or as a defense against overwhelming pain, producing a facade of lightness masking deeper unrest. Philosophically, this synthetic happiness challenges notions of authenticity and self-awareness. It reminds us that not all smiles are sincere, and sometimes our minds perform emotions to meet expectations or soothe discomfort. This experience, lightness without depth, is a quiet paradox, a reminder that true joy is layered, fragile, and often hidden beneath the surfaces we present to the world. Imagine vividly remembering a childhood that isn't yours, different house, different parents, yet the memories feel real, detailed, undeniable. You wonder, is this a dream, a trick of the mind, or a misplaced reality? Neuroscience tells us memory is not a perfect record but a reconstructive process. False memories can be implanted or arise spontaneously, blending imagination with fragments of actual experience. Our brains sometimes borrow details, weaving alternate pasts. Psychologists study this phenomenon extensively. Conditions like confabulation cause individuals to fill memory gaps with fabricated but believable stories. Even everyday people can experience memory intrusions, remembering events that never happened to them. These mistaken recollections challenge our sense of identity. If memories shape who we are, what happens when those memories belong to another life? It raises profound questions about self, reality, and the mind's limits. Philosophers ponder if consciousness is a narrative constantly rewritten, where memory is less about truth and more about survival. Perhaps your wrong life is a shadow cast by your mind, a haunting echo of a parallel existence or forgotten possibility. So when your past feels unfamiliar, remember, memory is fragile, identity fluid, and reality more mysterious than it seems. Imagine feeling the same grief over and over, even though nothing new has happened. It's not the world changing, it's your mind, looping the same old wound, replaying pain like a broken record. Neuroscience reveals that emotions can become trapped in neural circuits, replaying without fresh triggers. This is known as emotional memory consolidation, where the brain reinforces feelings linked to past trauma. Psychologists describe this as an emotional loop, an unending cycle where old pain is recycled, disguised as new sorrow. The mind, seeking resolution, inadvertently reactivates wounds that never fully healed, keeping you caught in the past. This looping of emotion blurs time, making yesterday's grief feel like today's reality. It's a haunting paradox. The world moves forward, but your heart stays stuck in replay. Understanding this helps us see that healing isn't just about changing circumstances, but retraining the mind to release these loops. So when you feel trapped in repeated sorrow, remember, it's not new pain, but an echo you can learn to silence. Imagine glancing at the calendar, only to realize the date has shifted without you noticing, not because you forgot, but because time itself seemed to leap forward while you blinked. This unsettling sensation challenges our perception of time's flow and our place within it. Science tells us that our experience of time is subjective, governed by the brain's internal clock rather than an external metronome. Moments can stretch or contract depending on attention, emotion, and even memory encoding. This means time can feel fluid, sometimes racing ahead unexpectedly. Neurologically, when attention lapses or consciousness briefly fades, like during microsleeps or intense focus, your brain fills in gaps, creating illusions that days or hours have moved without your participation. This cognitive shortcut helps maintain a coherent experience but can distort actual temporal awareness. Quantum physics also suggests time may not be a fixed arrow but a flexible dimension, with events not strictly ordered but probabilistic. This theory implies that dates could shift in ways that feel disorienting when we're not fully anchored in the present. Psychologically, this phenomenon taps into the fear of missing out, the feeling that life's moments pass by unseen or unattended, as if time is moving on without you. When dates move without you, it's a reminder of the fragile grip we have on time, both in perception and in reality. It invites mindfulness, urging us to engage deeply with the now before the calendar silently advances. Imagine hearing a sound with no source, feeling a touch that isn't there, or smelling something vivid, though nothing exists to produce it. These phantom inputs haunt the edges of perception, like echoes of dreams bleeding through the fragile veil separating sleep from waking life. This eerie overlap reveals the brain's complex dance between internal sensation and external stimulus, blurring the line between reality and imagination. Neuroscience explains these phenomena through the concept of sensory hallucinations, experiences of perception occurring without external input. They arise when the brain's sensory regions activate spontaneously or become hypersensitive, often triggered by fatigue, stress, sleep deprivation, or neurological conditions like migraines and epilepsy. Psychologically, these ghostly sensations highlight how the brain constructs reality by integrating sensory data with memory, expectation, and prior experience. During transitions between sleep and wakefulness, fragments of dream imagery and feelings can leak into consciousness, creating a surreal liminal state where past and present, real and imagined, intertwine. Consider hypnagogic hallucinations experienced just before sleep or hypnopompic ones upon waking. Vivid, sometimes unsettling sensory flashes that defy explanation yet are surprisingly common. These moments remind us that perception is not a simple, direct reflection of the outside world, but a constructed narrative shaped by dynamic brain activity. So when you encounter input from nowhere, it's not your mind deceiving you. It's a window into the fragile, layered nature of consciousness, where the echoes of dreams ripple beneath the surface of waking reality, inviting you to explore the mysteries of perception itself. Imagine people calling you by a name you never shared, recalling conversations you don't remember having. They mention stories and moments that feel familiar but aren't part of your reality. You are recognized, but not as who you truly are in this version of yourself. This strange disconnect reveals the fluid, fragmented nature of identity and memory. Neuroscience shows that memory is reconstructive, not a perfect recording. Our brains fill gaps with guesses, emotions, and external influences, shaping how we remember others and ourselves. This creates false memories and altered versions of people we think we know. Psychologists explain this as the Mandela effect, or collective misremembering, where groups share distorted memories, blurring the lines between reality and imagination. This phenomenon highlights how social identity is co-created, flexible, and sometimes fractured. Philosophers question what it means to be you when others' perceptions diverge wildly. Being remembered wrong is a haunting reminder that identity is partly a story told by others, one that can shift beyond your control. In this liminal space, familiarity becomes alienation, and you exist simultaneously as yourself and a stranger shaped by imperfect memories. Imagine gazing at the night sky, feeling an uncanny sensation that the stars aren't just distant suns, but eyes watching you back. Not gods or spirits, but echoes of earlier versions of yourself left behind in the light traveling across time. The stars you see are ancient, their light taking years, centuries, sometimes millennia to reach you. When you look up, you're peering into the past, witnessing the universe as it was long before your existence. Physics teaches us that light travels at a finite speed. The photons reaching your eyes tonight began their journey long ago, carrying snapshots of distant moments. In a way, the cosmos holds fragments of your own history, because you, too, are made from stardust, born from the same cosmic fires. Philosophers and scientists alike ponder the meaning of this connection. The stars are both distant and intimate, bridges between time, space, and self. When you stare upward, you aren't just looking out, you're looking back. So next time the night sky draws you in, remember, those twinkling lights are more than celestial bodies. They are time capsules, reflecting pieces of you across the vastness of the universe, watching silently from older skies. Imagine feeling a deep bond with someone you've never met, a connection that defies time and space. When they're gone, a sadness washes over you, even though they were never near. Neuroscience and psychology suggest that such feelings arise from the brain's ability to create mental simulations and emotional resonances beyond direct experience. Mirror neurons help us empathize, allowing us to feel others' emotions as if they were our own. Psychologists call this parasocial connection, a one-sided relationship where emotions are real, even if interaction is absent. Evolutionarily, humans are wired for social bonds. The brain can extend this wiring to imagined or symbolic relationships. This mysterious bond challenges our ideas about attachment and presence, revealing that connection is not limited by physical proximity. Sometimes, our minds reach out to fill gaps with empathy, forging ties that feel profoundly real despite lacking tangible source. So, when you mourn someone never close, know that your heart is tuned to invisible threads weaving souls across distance and time. Imagine panicking before danger even appears, laughing before the joke is told, or crying before the goodbye is spoken. You react to the world before it fully arrives, as if your mind is tuned to a hidden signal flowing ahead of reality. This phenomenon challenges our understanding of time, perception, and consciousness. Neuroscience reveals that the brain processes information milliseconds before conscious awareness. Neural activity predicting stimuli can trigger emotional and physical responses in advance, creating a sense of anticipating reality rather than responding to it. This pre-conscious processing helps us survive by preparing for what's coming. Beyond biology, theories in quantum physics and consciousness studies suggest time may not be strictly linear. Concepts like retrocausality propose that effects can precede causes, allowing information to flow backward in time. If consciousness interacts with time non-linearly, your reactions might be glimpses of a future already written. Psychologically, this experience can feel uncanny, your intuition or gut feelings acting like precognition. While often dismissed as coincidence, these moments reveal how deeply interconnected your mind is with the unfolding world. In those fleeting instances when emotions surge before events, your consciousness is dancing on the edge of time, sensing the future before it steps into the present. So next time you react before reality, embrace the mystery. You may be touching the hidden threads that weave past, present, and future into one continuous flow. Imagine walking away from a place without knowing why, a silent force pulling you back, a gut feeling that warns without words. Later, when something happens there, a danger narrowly avoided, a secret uncovered, your mind softly whispers, "I told you." This is not intuition alone. It's memory, speaking from depths beyond conscious recall, a complex network of implicit signals guiding you through life's unseen dangers and hidden patterns. Science shows that memory is not merely stored facts, but layered, interconnected experiences. Implicit memory encodes emotions, sensations, and unconscious associations that escape our conscious mind. These hidden traces influence decisions, triggering avoidance or caution, without a clear, accessible origin. Neurologically, the amygdala, our brain's emotional alarm system, processes threats and encodes fearful memories. It can activate instantly before the conscious mind fully understands, creating feelings of unease or subtle warnings. Meanwhile, the hippocampus organizes contextual details, but its conscious access can be limited or blocked by trauma, stress, or repression. Consider survivors of trauma who avoid certain places, sounds, or people without remembering why, driven by subconscious memories that protect them from harm. Even everyday fears, habits, or unexplained reactions often root in this silent memory network, operating beneath conscious awareness. So, when memory knows more than you, trust the quiet warnings. Your mind's whispers are ancient wisdom, embedded in brain circuits designed to keep you safe, even when you don't understand why. It's the invisible guardian guiding your steps through the unseen hazards of life. Imagine your life unfolding like a book you finished years ago. The pages are worn, the story familiar, every plot twist anticipated, every chapter known. You're no longer writing new lines, but rereading the same passages, waiting, hoping for a twist that never comes. This eerie sensation reveals how routine and memory can trap consciousness in loops of familiarity. Neuroscience explains that repetition and habit ingrain neural pathways, making experiences predictable and automatic. Dopamine release diminishes with routine, reducing the brain's response to novelty and making life feel like déjà vu in slow motion. Psychologists describe this as a form of existential stagnation, where meaning fades and the future seems paused. The mind longs for surprise, yet is caught in a loop of replay, craving the unexpected but stuck in the known. Philosophers reflect on the nature of time and narrative, pondering whether life is a story we author or merely relive. Feeling like you've read your life warns of the dangers of complacency and the yearning for reinvention. In this moment, you exist between memory and anticipation, waiting for the story to resume, for the twist that transforms the familiar into the new. Imagine walking through a store, but instead of products, you sense emotions, grief lingering in aisle 3, nostalgia hovering near the freezer. These feelings aren't tied to people or events around you. They're unconnected, yet intensely real. Neuroscience reveals that environments can trigger powerful emotional responses through associations stored in the brain. Our senses, sight, smell, sound, link places to memories, sometimes surfacing emotions seemingly out of nowhere. Psychologists call this emotional priming, where subtle cues awaken dormant feelings. A scent, a color, a sound can act like keys unlocking chambers of the mind you didn't know were sealed. Even when the triggers seem unrelated, the brain weaves these sensations into a tapestry of experience, blurring the line between external space and internal feeling. Philosophers suggest this shows how deeply intertwined we are with the world around us, that emotions aren't isolated states, but part of a shared, layered reality. So next time you feel a sudden rush of emotion in an ordinary place, remember, you're shopping not just for goods, but for feelings, wandering aisles of memory and meaning. Imagine looking into a mirror and suddenly feeling sadness, even though nothing seems wrong at the moment. Later, that sadness overwhelms you. The mirror saw it before you did. Neuroscience reveals that our brains can detect subtle emotional cues before conscious awareness. The mirror, reflecting not just your image but micro-expressions and shifts in posture, acts like an early warning system. Psychologists describe this as affective forecasting, the brain's unconscious prediction of future emotions based on tiny changes in body language and facial tension. Sometimes, your reflection picks up on internal turmoil before your mind fully processes it. This premonition challenges the idea that feelings emerge only from immediate events, showing that emotions often simmer beneath the surface, waiting to rise. The mirror becomes a silent seer, revealing the hidden emotional currents that flow inside you. So next time your reflection stirs a feeling before your mind does, remember, it's glimpsing what's yet to come. a shadow cast by your own future heart. Imagine feeling your heartbeat, not as the steady rhythm you know, but something unfamiliar. It's not slower or faster, it's simply other. An alien pulse beating inside you, like your body's tempo has shifted into a strange rhythm that doesn't belong. This eerie sensation unsettles the foundation of self and identity. Neuroscience explains that our perception of the heartbeat is not just mechanical, but deeply tied to interoception, the brain's sense of the body's internal state. Sometimes, disruptions in neural processing can distort this sense, making the familiar feel strange or foreign. Conditions like arrhythmia or anxiety can alter how we experience our heartbeat, creating a dissonance between expectation and sensation. Beyond biology, this feeling taps into profound questions about embodiment and self-awareness. If your heartbeat, a symbol of life's constant flow, feels alien, it challenges the unity of mind and body. Some theories in consciousness studies propose that our sense of self is a construct, fluid and dynamic, influenced by both internal and external signals. Psychologically, the experience can provoke anxiety, disorientation, or even existential reflection. What does it mean when the rhythm that anchors your being feels out of sync? Is this a signal from the body, a metaphor for change, or a glimpse into altered states of consciousness? In those moments when your heartbeat feels other, you confront the fragile line between familiarity and strangeness, identity and otherness. So when your pulse dances to a wrong rhythm, listen closely. It might be your body's quiet message, or the mind's mysterious echo. Imagine living a life where you're not the hero, not the victim, not even the narrator of your own story, but the role still fits like a coat you can't take off. This haunting sensation reveals how deeply stories shape identity, and how sometimes we wear narratives that aren't truly ours, trapped by roles assigned by past pain, culture, or expectation. Psychologists explain that identity is often constructed through the stories we tell ourselves and others. These narratives create meaning, provide coherence, and help navigate the world, but they can also imprison, limiting growth, self-understanding, and authentic connection. Cognitive biases, trauma, and social conditioning reinforce these roles, making them feel inescapable, like invisible chains wrapped tightly around the self. Neuroscience shows that the brain's storytelling centers, like the default mode network and medial prefrontal cortex, actively construct self-narratives that align with emotions, past experiences, and social identity. Changing these entrenched stories requires conscious effort to rewire neural pathways, challenge long-held beliefs, and craft new, empowering scripts. Consider how trauma survivors, people in toxic relationships, or those stuck in rigid social roles struggle to shed false narratives imposed upon them. The wrong story can dictate behavior, shape emotions, and even impact physical health, becoming a prison disguised as identity. So when you realize you're wearing the wrong story, it's the first step toward freedom. Recognize the role, question its truth, and begin crafting a narrative that reflects your authentic self, not the mask handed to you by past pain or society. Imagine waking up on some days feeling as if you've picked up a new piece of yourself, an unfamiliar fragment that wasn't there before, a shard of identity that feels oddly alien yet somehow integral. This sensation reveals the complex, fragmented nature of selfhood and consciousness, where the puzzle of who you are never fully settles. Neuroscience shows that identity is a dynamic construction, constantly shaped by memory, emotion, and experience. The brain's networks integrate multiple selves, past, present, and potential, into a shifting whole. Sometimes, this integration falters, leaving pieces misaligned or newly assembled. Psychologists explore dissociative identity and identity disturbance as manifestations of this fragmentation, where shifts in self-perception can feel like acquiring parts from elsewhere. These pieces may emerge from trauma, growth, or unconscious processes seeking resolution. Philosophically, the puzzle of identity questions the idea of a singular, stable I. Instead, it suggests the self is fluid, layered, and perpetually incomplete, like a mosaic of shifting fragments. In those moments of new pieces, you confront the mystery of becoming, how identity is not fixed, but a puzzle continually reassembled, revealing the fragile, evolving nature of who you truly are. Imagine dreaming a vivid symbol, a face, a place, a word, and laughing it off as nonsense. You misunderstood the message, dismissed the meaning. Then, years later, the event unfolds, eerily like the dream, but twisted, altered, not as you expected. Dreams are mysterious broadcasts from the subconscious. Neuroscience shows they blend memory, emotion, and imagination, weaving narratives that don't always translate clearly when awake. Symbols in dreams are ambiguous, shaped by personal and cultural contexts. Psychologists explain that misinterpretation is common. The brain seeks patterns, but can impose false meanings, making prophecy seem accidental or distorted. The dream wasn't wrong. Your understanding was incomplete. This phenomenon reminds us of the fragility of prediction and the fluidity of fate. Life echoes dreams, but never repeats them exactly. The prophecy lies not in precise outcomes, but in themes, warnings, and feelings that resurface, urging attention. So when a dream seems meaningless, remember, its prophecy may be hidden in misunderstanding, waiting for you to decode it in the unfolding story of your life. Imagine a belief so strong it shapes the world around you, not by changing reality itself, but by altering how you perceive and interact with it. Neuroscience reveals that belief activates neural pathways that filter information, reinforcing what aligns with your expectations and ignoring what contradicts them. Psychologists call this confirmation bias, where the brain selectively processes experiences to support existing beliefs. Over time, this rewiring creates a personalized reality, a structure built from the lens of your convictions. Belief doesn't just influence thought, it molds behavior, decisions, and even social interactions, turning subjective perception into tangible outcomes. This phenomenon explains why two people can witness the same event but experience entirely different realities. It also shows how beliefs can become self-fulfilling prophecies, guiding lives in unseen yet profound ways. So when you hold a belief tightly, remember, it's not just an idea, it's the architecture of your world, continuously shaping and reshaping your experience of existence. Imagine standing in perfect stillness, feeling calm and steady, yet beneath your feet, reality is shifting in ways you cannot see. Everything appears motionless, but the world around you is quietly transforming, subtle changes unfolding beneath the surface while you remain unaware, too slow to catch them in the moment. Science teaches us that many processes occur beyond our conscious perception. From the microscopic dance of atoms to the slow drift of tectonic plates, change is constant even when invisible. Our brains filter out much sensory information to maintain focus, often missing gradual shifts that require time and attention to notice. Neurologically, attention acts like a spotlight. When it's fixed elsewhere, transformations quietly happen without triggering awareness. This delay between occurrence and perception creates a gap where stillness masks movement, calm conceals upheaval. Psychologically, this can mirror how internal growth or decay happens beneath our conscious mind, emotional shifts, habits changing, thoughts evolving, all hidden from immediate view. We often realize transformation only in hindsight. Philosophically, stillness hides change reminds us that stability is an illusion, a momentary snapshot in the flow of existence. Life's undercurrents move relentlessly, and being present means attuning ourselves to the subtle shifts beneath the surface. So next time you feel calm and still, remember, reality is never truly static. Change whispers quietly, waiting for you to listen. Imagine trying to open a file only to find it corrupted, unreadable, unresolved, impossible to unpack or make sense of. A memory won't open, a feeling won't settle, and every attempt to confront it crashes the fragile system of your mind. Something deep inside your personal timeline has fractured, disrupting the flow of your inner narrative and leaving you stuck in confusion and pain. Psychologists describe this phenomenon as emotional fragmentation, where trauma or unresolved experiences create breaks and disconnections in memory processing. These corrupted files manifest as intrusive thoughts, emotional numbness, flashbacks, or feelings that resist integration into your conscious self. Neurologically, trauma profoundly impacts the hippocampus and amygdala, two brain regions essential for memory consolidation, emotional regulation, and contextualization. When these structures are overwhelmed, memories may be stored in fragmented, isolated ways that prevent coherent recall, understanding, and emotional resolution. Consider survivors of severe trauma who often report feeling stuck in time, reliving moments without context or closure. This broken timeline creates a persistent internal chaos, making healing feel like attempting to restore a corrupted hard drive, requiring patience, care, and support. So when the file is corrupted, it's not a failure or weakness, it's a call to patience and compassion. The mind system is damaged but not destroyed. With time, therapy, and understanding, those broken files can be carefully repaired, allowing your story to flow, your memories to connect, and your inner narrative to heal and become whole once more. Imagine living your life as if it's a TV show punctuated by commercial breaks, moments that feel like filler, empty spaces between the real action. You wait impatiently for the next scene, the next plot twist, convinced the real story lies just beyond these pauses. But what if the entire episode, the whole day, is just background noise, a continuous loop of mundane interludes? Neuroscience reveals that our brains crave novelty and meaning, constantly scanning for peaks of excitement or importance. When life settles into routine, the dopamine circuits that reward discovery go quiet, making ordinary moments feel dull, like static between highlights. Psychologists describe this sensation as an existential lull, where motivation wanes and time feels fragmented. The mind fixates on real moments, treating everything else as disposable filler, creating a disjointed narrative of lived experience. Philosophically, this challenges the notion of linear progress and meaningful storytelling. If all moments are background noise, then what truly matters? Perhaps life's meaning isn't only in climaxes, but in the quiet, unremarkable scenes that compose the whole. This perspective invites us to reconsider how we value time, urging us to find presence and depth even in the commercial breaks of our existence. Imagine returning to your own life after an absence only to feel like someone else borrowed it, rearranged the rooms, shifted your emotions, moved the furniture of your memories. You're home, but nothing feels quite right. Psychologists describe this sensation as depersonalization or derealization, a disconnect between self and experience, where the familiar becomes strange. It's as if your life's script was edited while you were away, leaving you a guest in your own story. Neurologically, trauma, stress, or exhaustion can fragment consciousness, causing these feelings of alienation. Your brain struggles to integrate past and present, making you question what's truly yours. Philosophers ponder identity's fluidity, asking if the self is fixed or ever-changing. When you feel someone else used your life, maybe it's a sign that your identity is not a solid object, but a shifting mosaic. This feeling, though unsettling, can be a doorway, a chance to reclaim, rewrite, and reorganize your narrative on your own terms. So when your life feels borrowed, remember, you hold the pen, and every change is an opportunity to make the story yours again. Imagine pulling on a single thread, a thought so fragile that tugging it makes everything around you start to unravel. Reality itself remains intact, unchanging in its external form, but inside your mind, your sense of self begins to fray. Neuroscience reveals that our identity is woven from countless interconnected thoughts, memories, and beliefs. When one key thread loosens, maybe a doubt, a trauma, or a revelation, it can unravel the fabric holding your self-concept together. Psychologists call this depersonalization, where the coherent narrative of you dissolves into fragments, leaving confusion and disorientation. This internal unraveling challenges the illusion that the self is fixed and whole. Instead, it reveals identity as fragile, dynamic, and vulnerable to disruption. Even though the world outside stays solid, your internal reality wavers, blurring the boundary between who you think you are and what you experience. So when the thread frays, it's not the universe breaking. It's the delicate weave of your mind coming undone, inviting you to reweave your story anew. Imagine you are not just one thing, but two, the coin spinning in the air, both heads and tails at once. You exist as both possibilities, both outcomes, simultaneously embodying the dream and the dreamer. This paradox unsettles the foundation of reality and identity, revealing the fluid nature of existence. Quantum physics introduces us to superposition, where particles hold multiple states at once until observed. Could consciousness work similarly, embodying all potential realities until focus collapses the wave into one experience? If so, your life is a blend of countless parallel possibilities, each as real as the next. Philosophically, this idea challenges linear time and singular identity. You are not merely living one fixed path, but are entwined with every possible version of yourself. The feeling of reality's solidity is the veil hiding this profound multiplicity. Psychologically, this state echoes the tension between choice and fate, action and inertia. The self is both actor and observer, dreaming and being dreamed. The line between subject and object blurs, and the only reason this duality feels real is because you haven't woken up yet to the vastness of your own existence, to the infinite dance of probabilities holding you within their grasp. So next time you feel torn between paths, remember, you are every possibility waiting to be realized, both coin and toss, waiting to awaken.